All right, guys, if you knew what I had to do just to keep my reputation of being on time today, you would not believe I'm actually on the air right now. Guys, welcome in. Big show. Friday after Thanksgiving, so appreciate you joining us. We have a lot to cover. I was going to try to hold this till Sunday, and I can't. It's too important. It's too important. We have to get the truth out as we discover it. We have to get the truth out as we discover it. This is too massive. It's too big. It's too important. And I think there is a much, much, much bigger story bubbling under the surface than any of us realize. And I want to bring that to you. I have committed. I will not talk about sound issues, except to say this. I'm going to play some clips from a Rob McCoy sermon today. I'm going to play some clips from a Rob McCoy sermon today, and those clips click. So whatever you guys have been dealing with on my end, I actually heard that today as I was preparing for this, or yesterday as I was preparing for it. And there are some clicks in his audio, and I realize now why you guys mention it, because I kept wanting to type in and say, hey, stop doing that, stop doing that. What I have discovered, I'm going to get to the monologue in a second because I think this is an important monologue. What I have discovered is huge. I think it's absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. And I just want you guys to understand what I think is taking place here. Okay, let me get to it. Whew. I'm out of breath, guys. I literally was sprinting through my house in the last 90 seconds before I went on air. I hit the 2-minute countdown. I hit live, and then I took off. Took off across the house. I had to unplug my headphones because they were in my ears, and I couldn't get them out of my shirt in time. Sprint across the house, grab a glass of water, and get back. And I only grabbed a small glass, which means I can't go terribly long today. So, be that as it may. Guys, last thing I'll say before I get to the monologue. I intended to cover everything today in a certain order. I had 3 stories I want to cover, and I wanted to cover them in a certain order. And so I wrote up the monologue. These monologues take me a long time to write. Sometimes a couple of 3 hours at times to write, get right, do the fact-checking, searching, and everything. So I write up this monologue, and at the last second, I think I'm covering everything out of order. I was talking to a friend of mine. He said, I'd go with the last story first, not the first story last. But you know what? I kept the monologue. To me, the monologue I did not want to rewrite it. I did not want to rewrite it, so I kept it in the order we're going in. So stay tuned, because there's a massive story on the back end of today. I mean, an absolutely massive story at the back end today. But first, let me get into the order I intended to cover this in a couple of days ago. JD Vance is described as both the heir apparent to Donald Trump and MAGA, but he's also described as an insider plan of the tech bros and the PayPal mafia. And the reality is he could be neither. He could be one or the other, or he could be both. Time will tell. At this time, we don't have enough information to know for sure. What we do know for sure is that his rise was meteoric. JD Vance is the sitting vice president of the United States, and he's only 41 years old. He was born in 1984. Because I have actual vivid memories of 1984, and I consider myself, perhaps naively, pretty young, JD Vance seems shockingly young to me. He's so young, he conceivably could have had an actual iPhone while he was still in college. And those of you who came of age in the iPhone and social media era don't understand just how young that makes him seem to those of us who are older than JD Vance. And he's so young that the overwhelmingly vast majority of the voting population, and I'm talking 99+% of American voters, had never heard of JD Vance just 3 years ago when he announced he was running for the U.S. Senate from Ohio. Sure, he'd written a popular memoir a few years earlier, Hillbilly Elegy, but most of us didn't know his name, even if we knew of the book. My sister was a huge fan of the book, for example, and she didn't know his name. She didn't know he wrote it. We didn't know JD Vance when he was born James Donald Bowman in August of 1984. We didn't know him when he got a new middle name and a new last name when he was renamed James David Hamill in 1990 at the age of 6. We didn't know him when he changed his name again in April 2013 to James David Vance at the age of 28. He chose the name Vance after his grandmother, who had an outsized role in raising him. When Donald Trump selected JD Vance to be his running mate shortly after Trump had his ear buzzed by a sniper in July of last year, JD officially was presented to the political world as a heavyweight of sorts. He was 39 years old. He'd been a U.S. Senator for 19 months. Just a few months later, he would be elected Vice President of the United States and would become the heir apparent to Donald Trump and the heir apparent to the MAGA movement. But we're learning not everyone who supported Donald Trump for election in 2024 looks set to back JD Vance in 2028. In fact, a political war appears to be on the horizon. The first shot of that war may already have been fired. And I'm not talking figuratively. I'm talking about an actual shot with an actual fatality. When President Donald Trump shocked the world by triumphing over Hillary Clinton in 2016, much credit was given to a tiny youth organization whose mission was strictly and solely to promote libertarian free market economic principles. That organization was Turning Point USA. It was headed by the young and fresh-faced Charlie Kirk. TPUSA's total revenue for the year 2016 was just $4.3 million. Nevertheless, President Trump's son-in-law and chief advisor, Jared Kushner, tweeted of Kirk about the 2016 election, quote, "When I was in the White House, established organizations often complained that we kept doing events with Charlie, to which I would reply, he comes with big ideas. He's easy to work with and always over-delivers. He is the best of MAGA," end quote. By 2024, Kirk's organization was indisputably essential to delivering Trump a second administration. TPUSA's revenue had exploded from $4.3 million in 2016 to more than $85 million in 2024. But the mission of TPUSA also had exploded. What was a strictly free market economic mission in 2016 had by 2024 become an ultra-religious mission with a massive dose of support for the political state of Israel and Israeli foreign policy. TPUSA had expanded by adding TPUSA Faith to the lineup in 2020. TPUSA Faith was strongly influenced by Pastor Rob McCoy, whose sermons are as much hour-long doses of Israeli propaganda as they are anything else. The once economic policy youth organization now was primarily recognized as a religious organization. And the religious organization was being funded and directed by those with strong pro-Israeli fervor and little to no tolerance for any other point of view on the issue. We all know Charlie was beginning to push back publicly and privately on the pro-Israeli cause. Indeed, TPUSA spokesman Andrew Colvett has confirmed Charlie Kirk sent text messages 2 days before his death saying he was left with no choice but to leave the pro-Israeli cause. Candace Owens insists Charlie Kirk texted a friend the day before he passed away saying he believed he was going to be killed. I have not independently verified that last bit of information, but I'm taking it at her word that the text exists. I'm as convinced as Charlie Kirk was that the pro-Israeli cause wanted to remove Kirk from his sphere of influence over the youth movement and politics. And I believe, as Charlie Kirk did, that they were willing to take his life if they had to in order to remove him. But the question must be raised, why? Why the urgent need to remove Charlie Kirk? Trump is already in office. Trump will remain in office absent some tragic emergency for the next 3+ years. And nobody is questioning Trump's commitment to the pro-Israeli cause. Nobody questions whether Trump will give them everything they want, so why go to such lengths to remove Charlie? And would removing Charlie Kirk be enough? And this is where JD Vance enters the picture. Two massive stories went largely unnoticed in the past couple of days. It is, after all, a holiday week. Both are, in my opinion, earth-shattering. Both explain why Charlie Kirk is no longer alive. And both are set in the context of JD Vance sidestepping the Israeli issue during his late October appearance during TPUSA's campus stop at the University of Mississippi. For context, the Jerusalem Post covered JD Vance's appearance at the University of Mississippi in the anti-Semitism section of the Jerusalem Post. The money line in the article was that, quote, Vance responded to the Israeli questions in an America First framing and suggested that his own support for Israel was not unequivocal. We know what happened to Charlie Kirk when his support for Israel was no longer unequivocal. That last sentence was mine. I should have said end quote. So that's the background for the two stories from the past few days. Here are those two stories. The first is an answer given by Erika Kirk during her interview with Megyn Kelly, released this past Monday. Asked about the possibility of TPUSA supporting JD Vance in a 2028 presidential bid, Erika Kirk said, quote, "It's in the works." She continued by saying, quote, "This was a thing my husband was very direct about. One of the last conversations we had was how intentional he was for supporting JD in 2028, end quote. For the record, I believe every word of her statement. The second news story is from a sermon Rob McCoy gave this week at Redemption Church in Monclova, Ohio. This is the same Ohio where JD Vance served in the United States Senate. This is the same Ohio where JD Vance was raised. This is the same Ohio JD Vance calls home. So Rob McCoy went right into JD Vance's backyard, stood on JD Vance's home turf, and then lumped JD Vance's name in with Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens. I'll play that clip for you in a short bit. You won't want to miss it. It is absolutely shocking. I had to rewind it 5 times because I thought he couldn't possibly have said it. He did. And here's what we learned from it. Rob McCoy and his ilk are no longer hiding the ball. He just returned from Israel a few days ago. They're coming right out in the open. They're no longer firing from the hip. They're sniping with precision. You're either with them or you're against them. And for now, at least, JD Vance is against them. And so is Erika Kirk, who said TPUSA intends to support JD Vance in 2028. And so was Charlie Kirk. And we all saw in gruesome detail how that ended for him. I have a few things I want to cover this afternoon. First, I want to cover Rob McCoy's statements, not just about JD Vance, but also about his son Mikey and the shifting timeline of who Mikey called and when. We'll learn this afternoon about a third call Mikey made in the immediate aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting. I say third. Mikey's father, Rob McCoy, actually says it was Mikey's first call after the shooting. It's a new call. I had not heard of it until Rob McCoy said it. We'll also learn about where Mikey was in the hours after the fatal shooting. It's not where you think. It's not at all where you think. And it's shocking. And finally, and perhaps this should have been the lead today, I've been given information that a new jet in Provo, Utah, on the day Charlie Kirk passed away has been identified as extremely suspicious by a professional who tracks airplanes for a living. And that's all I will tell you about who gave me this information. I do not want to dox this person. But you will not want to miss this story or how this plane was detected. But I think it needs to be looked into. But first, Rob McCoy, ladies and gentlemen. Rob McCoy. This is a sermon from Redemption Church, again, in Monclova, Ohio. Monclova, Ohio is up, I think, in like the Toledo area. I'll be stopping and interacting with this a few times here on the first pass. This first clip is about 3 minutes, give or take. But it could take me longer than that to get through it. What we're going to hear is that Rob McCoy does not call his son Mikey. He let the word Michael slip out. And I think that's important because I've been given information that people who knew Michael growing up did not call him Mikey, that he was not Mikey until he went to work for TPUSA with Charlie. So that is one bit of information. And the Michael, when it slipped out, I thought, that sounded different. He's always called him Mikey, from what I've heard. But then we'll hear about the phone calls. And I want to put the phone calls in context of what everybody else at TPUSA, including Mikey, including Andrew Colvett, including Blake Neff, including everybody has said up to this point. And then I want to put the timeline in front of you and say, is this rational? Is this logical? Could this have happened? So let me get to some of this. Of course, the name of the sermon is called The Church in Israel. Would you believe it? Rob McCoy gave a sermon, and it's all about Israel. I know you're shocked. I know you're shocked. I know you can't believe it, but that's what happened. So let me share this here and jump right into it. This is the setup of the entire sermon.
I'll give you an example, and I won't share anything that hasn't already been shared publicly. I've chosen to remain silent simply because I was Charlie's pastor, and I'm ministering now to his widow. And if she doesn't want to speak, I won't speak. The servant speaks when he's spoken to, and he offers his opinion when he's asked. And God's called me to serve Charlie and serve Erika. That being said, things have been shared on the show and things that I can speak to. Number one, I'm being accused of murdering Charlie or being complicit in the murder of Charlie, as is my son Michael.
There was the Michael. I've not heard him refer to Mikey as Michael, but I was given a tip from someone who knew them growing up by email. Email comes in and says, hey, I knew these guys growing up. I've been around for a long time, and they sent it from an anonymous email account, so I'm taking them at face value. They gave me some information that made me believe they were telling the truth. And he said, I can assure you Michael was Michael, not Mikey. That he became Mikey when he went to work for Charlie. So I noticed that. But now we're about to get into the extra phone call that took place that none of us heretofore had known about.
And it all stemmed from a Sunday service I gave 72 hours after Charlie was murdered, the first Sunday after his murder. And I'd gotten a call the day of the shooting from my son. And he had made, I think, 2 phone calls before he called me. One to his wife, obviously, very short call. I think the other was to Erika to tell.
All right, there it was. We'll get into that. We have been told that Mikey McCoy had to immediately turn away from his dying friend because he had been drilled into his head since he started working at TPUSA. If anything ever happens to Charlie Kirk, the very first thing you do is call Erika. Not go try to help your friend. You go tell Erika. You call Erika. Drill, 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 drill. If you listen, they talk drillium, drill, 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 drill. And so all of a sudden, we've been introduced to a third phone call. Now, I'm going to put the timeline up in front of you and ask, is it possible that Mikey McCoy made 3 phone calls? Because we have a timeline that we know for sure based on Blake Neff. Blake Neff puts a phone call up, I'll show it in a minute, but puts a phone call up from his mom and said, I called my mom when Mikey called his dad. And it was 1 minute after the gunshot. And Blake Neff even says, I got to Mikey within 15 to 20 seconds. And that's when he called Erika. So when did he have time within 15 to 20 seconds of the gunshot? When did he have time to call his wife? This is new. And I tell you, I believe they're introducing this new fact for a reason. I don't think this is a mistake. I think this is coldly calculated. Coldly calculated, this introduction. I think it's being tested, floated here, because they know they have a timeline problem in Mikey's phone. Otherwise, Blake Neff turned his phone over. Blake Neff showed screenshots of his phone calls. Mikey has not. So let's continue.
Her husband had been shot. And the third was to me, and I could hear in his voice. And the boy's one of the most calm human beings I've ever met. I've never seen him cry. He is one of the most steady human beings. And at the time, he's 23 years of age, and his mentor is bloodied. And he said, Dad, there's blood everywhere. Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call pastors to pray. And I said, I will, son. And I hung up. I told him.
If your son calls you, those of you who don't have kids, maybe you can't contemplate how this is not a legitimate story. But if your son calls you, and he calls you and says, Dad, I'm at an event, and the headliner of the event just got shot, you need to pray. Will you ever in a million years say, I will pray, son, and then hang up? Like, that's weird thing, number one. Number two, this is supposedly the kid you pastor, Charlie Kirk. This is supposedly the guy you pastor. This is supposedly a mentee of yours. This is supposedly somebody you're very, very close with. Your son calls you and says, this guy that you are sharing a life with, that you pastor, that you're close to. He's just been shot in the neck, and I fear he could be dead. There's blood everywhere. I need you to pray. I will, son. Click. Does that even begin to make sense? Nobody can buy that story. Nobody can buy that story. Remember, by this time, he's already called Erika and had, for some reason, an incredibly brief call with Erika. These are 3 of the quickest calls in the history of mankind. We're talking 3 calls, 1 to your wife, 1 to the decedent's wife, and 1 to your father. All 3 calls, you're calling to share the news that a dear friend of yours, a colleague, an employee, a congregant, a spouse of yours has passed away, and you get off the phone in under 30 seconds in each instance? There's no one on earth who can believe that timeline. That, my friends, is why we don't have Mikey McCoy's phone. That's why we don't have Mikey McCoy's phone. In my opinion, I'm not saying this is fact. I'm not saying I've looked at his records. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying, in my opinion, that timeline doesn't add up. And I believe that is why we don't have phone records from Mikey McCoy. How on earth does that story make sense? Those of you who are married, you call your wife and you say, oh, my boss just got shot in the neck. I need you to pray. Okay, I'll do that. Good night. Goodbye. I'm getting back to my... What are you doing? Washing clothes? You listening to a podcast? And then you call the spouse of the person who died? And you give the news to her, you break the news to her that her spouse has been mortally wounded, you believe? There's blood everywhere? And you talk to her for what, 25 seconds? And if you remember, he said, and I'll play this for you in a little bit, that the phone rang 3 or 4 times before she picked up. Well, that's another 5 or 10 seconds there. So you've got a phone call to your wife. You're Mikey McCoy. You're the chief of staff of TPUSA. You've got a phone call to your wife that lasts what, 15, 20 seconds? Honey, Charlie's been shot in the neck. He looks dead. Bye. Then you got to call Erika. Erika, your husband's been shot in the neck. There's blood everywhere. Yep, I got to go. Bye. And then you call your dad. Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. His blood everywhere. Yep. All right, I'll talk to you later. If my kid calls me to tell me she stubbed her toe, I talk to her for 5 minutes. Well, is it bleeding? Do you need a Band-Aid? Do you have any rubbing alcohol? All right. If you don't, soap and water will be fine, honey. Soap and water. Get a lot of soap and water. If it's bleeding, you've lifted the nail bed. A little soap and... The timeline doesn't make sense. This is, in my opinion, an impossible to swallow story that Rob McCoy is giving you. 3 phone calls in under a minute and a half? No, I'm not buying it. And we can prove it was under a minute and a half. I'll do that in a moment. I want to get through the rest of this clip, and then I'm going to pull up the others that can prove all of these calls, if they took place in under a minute and a half. But we continue with Rob the Sailor Man.
My wife, and there was panic in the house, and everyone calmed down. We prayed, started making calls. We packed bags to get to Utah. On the way to the airport, we were informed that Charlie had died.
And I think I found the flight that they took to the airport. I think I found that flight, and that timeline does make sense, that the announcement that Charlie Kirk had passed away would have taken place in the 30 minutes or so before that plane left the airport in California and headed to Utah. I think that's the plane they were on. He's not said, but I think so. I think we found it.
We landed at the FBO, went straight to the hospital. When I got there, I saw Frank Turek, the apologist for Christian faith, who's also being accused of being complicit in doing hand signals, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And if you buy into that, you are feeding your flesh. And you are attacking the character of another human being by vain supposition and innuendo. And that's carnality. Frank Turek is one of the most humble men I've ever met. Brilliant, too. And I saw him at the hospital, and he was in hospital scrubs.
This is an interesting bit here. For one thing, listen to who all he says he saw at the hospital. Now, I can tell you, I believe his plane landed. Let me find the timeline here. I believe his plane that he was on landed at 4:36 Mountain Time in Provo. It's about a 15-minute ride, from 12 to 15 minutes from maybe 20. Traffic, or you got to deplane from the Provo airport to the hospital. So he was there, I think, before 5 o'clock. The plane took off Pacific time at 2:19, so that would be 3:19 Mountain Time. And that would make sense, because that was about the period of time in the few minutes before that Charlie Kirk was alleged to the first, other than Terrell Farnsworth's pronouncement at the scene that they had taken Charlie's life. That was the first official announcement we had that Charlie's life had indeed been taken. But he walks in and he sees Frank Turek in scrubs. And then he's going to say he sees the rest of the security, a few other of the security guys in scrubs. I've been to many hospitals. I come from a family of medical professionals. I won't get into explicit detail, but if you know me, there's a lot of them. I've never seen guests given scrubs. This would be a first. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's never happened. Perhaps it's very common. I've just never seen it. But apparently, the whole security staff was in scrubs, including Frank Turek.
And I saw 3 members of the security detail in hospital scrubs. I said, "Did you guys operate on them? Why are you wearing these?" They said, "Our clothes were covered in blood." Well, from that illustration, I assume my son was too.
So he assumes, not from the initial phone call, that's what we were told before, and I'm going to point out one more anomaly here in a moment, but not from the initial phone call does he assume his son was covered in blood, because that was his sermon 72 hours later, that his son was covered in blood, but because Frank Turek and 3 of the security members were wearing scrubs, because they were covered in blood. So that is why he's now saying he thought his son was covered in blood. Hey, it gets worse. Wait. Because he gives the game away by saying something I don't think he intended to say in just a moment. I hate to play cross-examination with him here, but there's a good fact he drops in here that I don't think he intended to drop. But this is what happens when you think you're smarter than everybody else and you go extemporaneous. This is why your lawyer tells you to shut the blank up and not talk. This is why you have a right to remain silent, and this is why your lawyer will always say, you're not going to outsmart the cops. Just shut your blanking mouth. Because when you stand up there in your skinny jeans and your undersized, whatever that is he's wearing, and you just start extemporaneously with your arms folded, just talking off the cuff, sometimes you say things you don't think about. And we're going to get to one of those statements here in under a minute. You're going to love it.
And when I got to the hotel in Salt Lake City and he was wearing clothes he hadn't been wearing before, I just assumed they were covered in blood.
2 things. One, did anyone before that statement know that Mikey was at a hotel in Salt Lake City while the rest of the security team was at the hospital covered in blood? Is there anybody else who knew that? Because I didn't know that. I was unaware. And I can tell you what time he got to the hotel in Salt Lake City. Because the plane he flew in on was only in Provo for about 50 minutes, 40 minutes. And then it left for Salt Lake City. Now, I don't know whether he was on that plane or not, but it was a 16-minute flight. It was a 16-minute flight. So either the flight took off without him, and I'm assuming this is the flight he was on. It makes sense to me. But if it wasn't the flight he was on, then someone else was on this flight, and that's even weirder, frankly. But I'm going to give you the timeline here. His flight comes into Provo at 4:36 Mountain Time. It leaves Provo for Salt Lake City at 5:16 Mountain Time. Why is anyone in Salt Lake City at this point? Why is anyone in Salt Lake City at this point? Think about it. Charlie had flown into Salt Lake City in the morning because he had an event to do, and then he drove down, presumably drove down to Provo to do the event there, and then they were all going back to Scottsdale. Why is there a hotel in Salt Lake? Why is anyone in Salt Lake? Were they planning to stay in Salt Lake that night? It's an over an hour drive from Provo to Salt Lake. Why is anyone in Salt Lake? Why is Mikey in Salt Lake? So that's part one. Part two, did anyone else catch what I heard? He said he was in clothes he hadn't been in that day. Come again? Robbie, how did you know what your son was wearing that day? How did you know what your son was wearing? I didn't know. I mean, had you seen him that morning? Had you seen him that morning? Because that's new information if you had seen him. Were you watching Mikey McCoy and his whereabouts? Were you watching the event in Utah Valley University? Is that what you're telling us? Were you FaceTiming Mikey at some point during the day? If so, why? And why are we just now learning about it? Did you normally watch TPUSA events? Is this the first time you'd ever watched a TPUSA event? How many TPUSA events have you watched before? More than one, more than two, more than three, more than four, more than five, more than 10, more than 15, more than 20? Oh, or was this the first? Was your son always planning to stay in Salt Lake City that night? Did he have a hotel reservation before the event, or was the hotel reservation made after the event? Did you drive to Salt Lake, or did you fly on the plane? Because if you flew on the plane, you would have barely had time to get to the hospital in order to turn around and go back to the plane, because it is, as I said, a 15 or so minute drive, maybe even a 20-minute drive, and the plane was only on the ground in Provo 40 minutes. Did you just drive to the hospital to pick up Mikey? Was Mikey at the hospital when you got there, or was he always at the hotel in Salt Lake City? Do you understand how many questions this statement has opened up? Because I could envision a scenario where Rob is arriving on the scene in Provo to drive to the hospital to pick up Mikey, to get him back to the plane, to go to the hotel in Salt Lake for some reason, get his clothes changed, whatever. And that they had this conversation about, oh, I got to get, in which case, you know, he wasn't covered in blood. So that's like problem one. Or your son was in Salt Lake for some inexplicable reason. Everybody else had gone to the hospital. Everyone else had gone to the hospital. His security team was at the hospital. Frank Turek was at the hospital. And your son is in a hotel in Salt Lake? Why? What's he doing there? This is all very weird to me. This is all incredibly weird to me. Now he's going to distance himself from TPUSA. When's the last time you heard Rob McCoy distance himself from TPUSA? I think this is awfully telling as well.
And so 72 hours later, I said my son was covered in blood. They called me a liar, and now I'm complicit in the death of Charlie. You see how stupid that is? It's beyond crazy. And it's just frustrating. Found out this week. I knew secondhand, so I spoke not of it. I only speak on things I have evidence of.
Oh? Is that true? Because you said your son was covered in blood, and you didn't have evidence of that. You only speak on things you have evidence on, but now you have to go back and clarify something you misspoke about because you didn't have the evidence? Well, that's weird. Listen to what he's clarifying here.
And everyone's saying, you know things, you need to talk. First of all, I'm not an employee of Turning Point. I'm not involved in their staff meetings. I have no idea what's happening with the investigation. I did hear secondhand that the university said they had the roofs covered. So the
Okay, and then he goes into this Brian Harpole thing that he talked about on Sean Ryan's show that we just completely obliterated on this program. If you missed that, go back and watch that. I totally dismantled Brian Harpole's argument that he somehow had somehow believed that the local officials had said they had the roof covered. Now, let's go to the record here. Let's go to the facts. Before I go to the next part, before he gets in here talking about how strong Charlie's neck is, I'm going to play that. And then he throws JD Vance, the first indication that JD Vance is no longer on the team. So we're going to play all that in a second. But first, I want to get to a little bit of why it is I'm having trouble believing that Mikey McCoy called his wife, called Erika, and called Rob all within 60 to 90 seconds. I'm having trouble with that. I have trouble swallowing that big of a pill. I cannot. But I'm going to give you an idea why I have trouble, because I want you to hear it directly from the horse's mouth.
It's just, I remember taking, the last picture I took of Charlie was at 12:23,
Yes.
right before he was shot. And I took that picture, my phone was already in my hand. I plugged.
So you can see he's telling the truth there. I guess he is. I mean, I'm assuming this hadn't been photoshopped, but that phone call, I mean, that date at the top right there, September 10, that's the day Charlie passed, 12:23 p.m. That's the moment Charlie passed, or the minute. I'm assuming that's not photoshopped. I wonder why it doesn't say a different time unless Arizona's on the exact same time. I thought they were an hour different, but maybe not. I'm willing to give him the fact that may be an accurate representation of this, but he took this photo within a minute of Charlie Kirk passing away. I would say probably within 20 or 25 seconds since he passed away, I think at around the bottom of the minute. But listen to what he says here about what happened in the immediate aftermath.
My ears, people thought I was on a phone call. I wasn't, but I
Don't
did,
worry.
in fact, call Erika momentarily afterwards. But thank you, Bernadette. That's very.
I did indeed call Erika momentarily afterwards. So I did indeed call Erika momentarily afterwards. That's Mikey McCoy's statement. That's what he's saying happened. What about Blake Neff? What does Blake Neff say happened? Who did Mikey call in the immediate aftermath? Who does Blake Neff claim Mikey McCoy called? I think this is important. This is what happens when Rob McCoy preaches, by the way. He needs to stop.
So I was not with Mikey, or I don't remember being with him. I think I was ahead of him as we left. And then we get out, and I run for, can't have been more than 15 or 20 seconds. And then I realized there hasn't been another shot, so the shooter has likely been detained or stopped or something, not in immediate danger. I pause, I look around me, and I see Mikey.
15 to 20 seconds. He pauses. He looks around strangely with his hand, frankly. He looks around like Bruce Lee would look around. But he looks around 15 or 20 seconds after the shot. He spots Mikey. Mikey's not talking to his wife. He's going to tell us that. Mikey's not talking to his wife. So 15 to 20 seconds has passed. Tell us, Blake, what you recall.
I see Mikey there, and truthfully, I will never forget what I saw, because I've seen Mikey almost every day for the past 2 years. I know his personality very well. He's a very bubbly guy. He's a very happy guy almost all of the time. And I'll never forget what I saw, because it was clear in the moment that he was profoundly freaked out. What I'll always remember is the way his lip was quivering, which I'd never seen before. And you very rarely see from someone that he was freaking out. And then I think he literally said to me, I might be imagining this, but I think what he literally said was, he was looking around, and then he says, I need to call Erika.
Looking around, and I need to call Erika. He saw him 15 to 20 seconds after the gunshot. He saw Mikey 15 to 20 seconds after the gunshot, after stopping and looking around like Bruce Lee. And we saw the video of just how fast Blake Neff can run. We saw that video. He ran at Blake Neff's speed. But he looks around 20 seconds afterwards, quivering lip. I've got to call Erika. And then if I continued to play, I have trouble with Blake Neff. But if I continued to play it, you would hear he calls Erika. Oh, actually, I am going to play it because I think it's unbelievable. I am going to play it. But because he calls Erika to tell her in all likelihood, her spouse is dead. And apparently they talked for like 20 seconds.
And then he takes his phone and he begins calling Erika. And I don't want to disclose how that call unfolded, but he did that. This, your mind extends all of this, but that is happening within a minute.
Within a minute. All of it happening within a minute.
Of all of this occurring. I remember he calls Erika. Around the same time, I pull out my phone and I call my mom.
So he calls Erika and he calls his mom at the same time. So we have a timeline from Blake Neff of when he called his mom. Believe it or not, we have that footage. We have that tweet. Now, I can't find the original tweet, but Candace played it on her show. And I'm going to share how she covered it because she covered it a lot of the same way I am covering it right now. Hey, this gives us a timeline. So let's talk about that timeline.
A week ago, I don't remember. And he decides to drop his call log with his mom, or rather a screenshot of the call that he had with his mom. Now, remember, Blake is in Arizona now, so this is going to say 11:24. It's supposed to be obviously 12:24 Utah time. We can show you that. You can see he calls his mom, and the call is 45 seconds long.
Okay, there it is. He is calling his mom at 24 after. And remember, Blake is saying Mikey calls Erika before he calls his mom. I'll let her continue for just a moment.
And the call begins at 11:24. So a story that he tells us is he's running for 20, 30 seconds, or however long he said there. Just not long. He stops, catches his breath. He sees Mikey. Mikey's got a quivering lip. Mikey looks at him and he says, I've got to call Erika. And he says, Mikey calls Erika, and then I call my mom. And when he terminates the phone call with his mom, he says, Mikey then called his dad.
So there's your timeline. Within 1 minute, he's calling his mom. He's talking to his mom for 45 seconds, Blake Neff. And then at the time he's terminating the call with Blake Neff terminating the call with his mom, so 45 seconds. So we're like somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 65 to 80 seconds after the gunshot. Mikey's hanging up with Erika, and he's on the phone calling Rob. That's the timeline we're given. What the bombshell from this last Sunday's sermon from Rob McCoy, the bombshell from them is he actually sneaked in a call to Erika, not to Erika, to Elizabeth McCoy first. That's the bombshell. That's the bombshell. He sneaked in a call to Erika before. Not Erika, excuse me. I keep using the wrong name. I'm terrible with names. He sneaked in a call to Elizabeth, his Liza, whatever she goes by. He sneaked in a call to her. I just thought of something. Mikey, Charlie, Erika, Eliza. Has she always gone by Eliza? Has she always gone by Eliza? Or were they trying to replace Mikey and Erika? I mean, Charlie and Erika, Mikey and Eliza. They flow. They both end in the same, they both have the same number of syllables. That's weird. That's weird. Okay. So what did we learn? We learned from Rob McCoy, talking extemporaneously in skinny jeans, that Mikey actually may have made a third call. This is, again, my opinion and my reading of what he said. I think it's fair, but I cannot tell you that this is exactly what they meant by all of this. But I think this is a fair reading of all of it. That Mikey hears the gunshot, turns within, what did we say, 800 and something milliseconds, so like less than a second, 0.8 seconds. He turns and walks behind the tent. 15 to 20 seconds later, Blake Neff catches up with him, and he is not on the phone with Eliza, or Elizabeth McCoy, his wife, Mikey's wife. Mikey is not on the phone with his wife at that point. He's got a quivering lip. I got to call Erika. He picks up the phone and calls Erika. After he calls Erika, he hangs up with Erika within seconds, some reason. If you call me to tell me my wife might have just died and been shot in the neck, and you hang up with me within 45 seconds, you're dead to me. Don't you ever call me a friend again. Does this lend credence to the fact that maybe Mikey was doing more than plugging his ears like this? that maybe he was actually doing this as he walked away, doesn't that lend a little credence to the fact that maybe he was actually doing this like we all thought? And that the reason he was covering his ear because of all the screaming? So he could hear what's taking place in here? You know, when you're at a concert or something and you're trying to hear somebody, you have to cover that other ear in order to really hear what's going on? Because if he was doing this, he was the only person in the venue that I could find covering his ear. I could find no other person covering their ears in that venue. Every other person had their arms down, running like Blake Neff said he was doing. Every other person was running. No one else was covering their ears. The only person who covering his ears also had a phone in his hand, suspiciously close to one of his ears. Now, if he was talking to Elizabeth or talking to Eliza, it might make sense that that's why he had his phone like that. But if so, when did he dial? Oh, he may have already had an open line to Eliza. Keep in mind, she was in the department that schedules these events. And he was present. And it had been drilled into him time and time and time and time and time again that the very first thing you do is call Erika. But now Rob McCoy suggests maybe he called his wife first and then Erika. I played that clip earlier. Again, I'm taking at face value that Rob McCoy knows what he's talking about. And I'm just expanding on a logical, rational opinion that could be formed from everything we've seen today. That's all I'm doing. Don't threaten me with defamation claims. Because I am just giving you my opinion based on everything you guys are saying. No other version of that story makes sense to me. No other version of that story makes sense to me. Now, let's get to Rob McCoy talking about how strong Charlie's neck is. You will not believe what you're about to see. You will not believe what you're about to see. I promise. And this isn't even the best part of the whole sermon. The best part is the clip I'm about to play after that. That's the best part of the whole sermon. Check this out. Check this out. Let me play that up as loud as I could. Someone said it was quiet.
And what an exciting time to be alive. The Republic is on the brink of a millimeter miracle.
The millimeter miracle he's talking about was Trump. So he's talking about, I'm going to give you some context here. He's talking about the two assassination attempts, one with Donald J. Trump, one with Charlie Kirk.
Missed that shot. They got Charlie. God knew one man couldn't be a martyr.
I just caught that. I didn't catch that the first time. He just said God knew one man couldn't be a martyr. In other words, Charlie was up for martyrship because of his faith. I think he just called Donald Trump a non-believer. Let me play that again. I didn't catch that the first 40 times I listened to it. God knew one man couldn't be a martyr. I think he's making fun of Donald Trump's faith.
Well, a millimeter miracle. Just missed that shot. They got Charlie. God knew one man couldn't be a martyr. We killed Abu. What's his name? Baghdadi. He died like a dog. I mean, that's moving. I just want to give my heart to the Lord whenever he speaks.
It sounds like he's going after Trump a little bit there, too. He's salty. Keep in mind, he'd just gotten back from Jerusalem 48 hours before this. Maybe 72, but I think it was 48 hours before this sermon. And if I'm talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and I know I like to cut up and have a good time on here, but if I'm in the pulpit talking about the martyrdom of a fellow saint and Christian, maybe I'm not making fun of Donald Trump's religious faith at the same time. I don't know. Maybe.
No, that bullet missed him, but the other bullet hit my friend and killed him. Charlie died with a smile on his face. Oh, couldn't have been a 30-06. It would have taken. Have you seen his neck?
He paused for emphasis there. don't let the pause ruin the statement. Oh, it couldn't have been a 30-06. It would have taken his neck off. Have you seen his neck? Yeah, I've seen lots of people's necks. I've seen the neck of elk and moose and elephants. Their necks don't stop 30-06s either, Pastor Rob. Did he say they by chance? Did someone in the comments said he said they?
No, that bullet missed him, but the other bullet hit my friend and killed him. Charlie died with a smile on his face. Oh, couldn't have been a 30-06. It would have taken. Have you seen his neck?
That's a bizarre take. I mean, to me, this is absolutely Rob McCoy and his ilk in total retreat. They're going down. They're going back to Superman neck. That's where we are. We've come full circle to Superman neck. That's where we are. Now, I want to get to this, the crux, in my opinion, of what he says in this entire sermon. This is the cause for my entire opening. You guys will never believe who is on the team. He's on the team. I hear time and time again the same, Ian, Tucker, Candace. Guess who's on the team, according to Rob McCoy? I don't know if we got to get him a jersey. What would JD's jersey say? We're going to have to get him a jersey because according to Rob McCoy, JD Vance is out when it comes to TPUSA faith, the pro-Israeli cause, and the support of this crew for the next president of the United States.
Look, I get it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory has caused white young males to be the bottom of the totem pole. And that's why they gravitate towards the Nick Fuenteses of the world and the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and, God forbid, JD Vance.
Did you hear that? And God forbid JD Vance, and then he pauses with that look on his face as if to say, did you catch it? We're done with JD Vance? I, for one, did not see this coming. I didn't see this coming, and I'll give you my explanation of why I think it's coming in a second. But let me play it again.
How do you do that? Look, I get it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory has caused white young males to be the bottom of the totem pole. And that's why they gravitate towards the Nick Fuenteses of the world and the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and, God forbid, JD Vance.
Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, JD Vance. Now, we saw what happened to Charlie Kirk when he was flirting with that crew. We saw what happened with Charlie Kirk when he was flirting with that crew. Turned out they proved he had a super neck. Here's why I think it's happening. I think there's a split. I think there's a split that has arisen on the right in the MAGA faction. And it's not JD Vance, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. Who else did he name? Nick Fuentes. I'll add some people in there. Ian Carroll, Ryan Madda, Blake Bednar. It's not all those people. That's not the split. That's not the split. Coach Colin. That's not the split. The split is the tech bros and the Israeli bros, the PayPal mafia and the Rob McCoy mafia. That's the split. That's the split. And what they're going to try to do is paint this wing over here with the broad brush of you can't trust anything they say. That's all anti-Israeli nonsense. That's anti-Semitism, is what that is. But he has signaled his intention to oppose JD Vance in 2028. Now, why is that important? Well, let's show you why that is so important. Because this was the headline in Newsweek talking about Erika Kirk and her appearance on the Megyn Kelly show. Erika Kirk says Turning Point would support a Vance 2028 presidential bid. I don't know why. I did not mean to hammer you guys. I did not mean to hammer you. That was an unintentional hammering. I did not intend to do that. You know I wouldn't do that to you. I love you guys. I would never intentionally hammer you. But we all got hammered. Oh, gosh, we're still getting hammered. How do I get rid of him? Ah! Every time I see him, I'm like, one, two. Got hammered. I'm sorry, guys. Won't happen again. Asked about the possibility of Turning Point USA supporting JD Vance in the presidential bid. In an interview on the Megyn Kelly show released on Monday, Charlie Kirk's widow said, quote, "It's in the works. This was a thing my husband was very direct about. One of the last few conversations we had was how intentional he was for supporting JD in 2028. So yes, it matters. And it puts Erika now in the firing line. And I mean that about as literally as I can. I mentioned this article earlier, so I want to show you just how it painted. Check this out. This is the Jerusalem Post. They have a section called the diaspora, so that's for the Jewish people around the world. And then and within that is a section called anti-Semitism, and that is where they covered JD Vance. That's where they covered JD Vance, under the anti-Semitism section. And then right after this article, a week or two after this article, is when Rob McCoy goes to Jerusalem in Israel. And then he comes back, and a couple days later, he gives the sermon you just heard, where he announced, we're done with JD Vance. He is essentially Candace Owens to us. He is essentially Nick Fuentes to us. He's essentially Tucker Carlson to us. At Ole Miss, Vance responded to both Israel questions in an America First framing and suggested that his own support for Israel was not unequivocal. Well, why would your support for any foreign nation be unequivocal? I've never understood that. My support for France is not unequivocal. My support for Germany is not unequivocal. My support for Canada is not unequivocal. My support for Mexico is not unequivocal. My support for Turkey is not unequivocal. My support for South Africa is not unequivocal. My support for Egypt is not unequivocal. My support for no country is unequivocal. The only thing unequivocal is I support American interests. That's unequivocal. I don't equivocate on that. So this is a blisteringly shocking revelation out of Rob McCoy on multiple fronts. Number one, his suggestion is Mikey McCoy made actually 2 phone calls before he called Rob McCoy about a minute after the shooting. All 3 phone calls must have lasted a matter of seconds, which is weird to me. You call your spouse to say, honey, my boss was shot in the neck in front of me moments ago. Okay, bye. Let me call the decedent's spouse. Honey, or excuse me, Erika, your husband was just shot in the neck. Oh, yeah, it was bad. Blood everywhere. Oh, okay, bye. That's weird. Let me call my dad. Dad, you know Charlie, your congregant, the one that calls you America's pastor? Yeah, he was just shot in the neck. You should pray. Okay, bye. I mean, that's about how long it took. That's about how long it took, which is just shocking and impossible for me to believe. So that's number one. That's number one that came out today. 2 phone calls. Number 2 that came out today. Mikey McCoy was in Salt Lake City in a hotel after the shooting. Not long after the shooting. And Rob McCoy somehow knew he had changed clothes. And obviously didn't ask him about the change of clothes, because then he would have learned that the change of clothes had nothing whatsoever to do with blood all over them. No, Rob McCoy assumed the change of clothes was because of blood, which means they didn't talk about the change of clothes, which means Mikey McCoy, his wardrobe selection was known to Rob before he saw him in the hotel. Number 3, revelation from Rob McCoy's Sunday sermon in Ohio. JD Vance, according to the pro-Israeli crowd, at least the Rob McCoy faction, JD Vance is no different from Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. That's what they think of JD Vance. That's what they think of JD Vance. God forbid JD Vance. That was the statement from America's pastor, Rob McCoy. So that's what we've learned. That's what we've learned. Now, I want to get to another story here. I'm going to pause. I'm going to change stories because I've got to get to, and it's going to take a little setup for me here. I became aware of somebody who was a professional in the realm of comings and goings of aircrafts. That's all I'm going to say. And so I say, hey, here's a list of all the flights who came in and out of Orem, Utah, or Provo, Utah on this day. Do you notice anything suspicious about any of these planes? Have fun, do your best. Let me know when you hear something. I get an email back. Now, I'm not going to read the whole email, but I'm going to tell you a few things. First, let me show you the plane. It is this plane right here. It's N315NG, November 315, November Golf. This is the plane. Now, let me preface this whole thing by saying it's very possible none of this is suspicious, that all of this is perfectly normal behavior for an airplane. And I think I have to position it that way because people are just litigious. And not that I don't believe it. I believe that this could be suspicious. But here's some flight history of this plane over the last, say, 90 days or so, give or take. Yeah, going back to late August, it's late November. So, yeah, 90 days or so of flight history from this plane. This a couple of days ago. And I said, just look over everything. So the person was looking at all the planes that landed in Provo, Utah on that day. And here's the email I got back. Let me read a portion of this email because I think it's important. If I can find it. Here it is. Actually, let me put the flights up so you can see them while I read. Oh, here we go. So flights going on the big screen. On the little screen is going to go the text. So these are the flights. Again, there may be nothing suspicious at all about these. I'm just telling you how a professional saw this day. Looks back 90 days at this flight because something jumped out on this particular day. All the flights that came and went on that day, this plane jumped out. So this person then goes and grabs 90 days worth of history of this flight to determine, was that day an anomaly or is this just a weird plane doing weird things? And here's what I got. There are 2 days that clearly break the normal medevac pattern, meaning this is a medevac plane. These allegedly mostly are medevac flights. There are 2 days that clearly break the normal medevac pattern, November 15th and September 10th, 2025. Here's why they are obvious outliers. Almost every other day in the entire log follows the standard medevac cycle. The aircraft is obviously based at Cortez, Muni. And you can see, maybe I can blow it up a little bit here for you. You can see how many Cortez Munis there are. See all these? Every night, this plane goes back to Cortez Muni, and that's where it starts. So you see all these Cortez Munis. So that's the context here. This plane is obviously based at Cortez Muni. It flies out in the morning or early afternoon to pick up a patient at a small strip. And then it lists the number of strips that are used. Window Rock, Arizona, Chinle, Arizona, Kayenta, Page, Blanding, Tuba City, Shiprock, etc. It then flies to a larger Phoenix area or regional airport. And it lists a number of airports, PHX, IWA, DVT, GYR, SDO, or occasionally Denver, COS, or Albuquerque. Later in the same day, it repositions empty back to Cortez to be ready for the next mission. So that's the context that this person said they noticed on this plane. They, again, context is key here. Looked at all the flights coming and going on September 10th from Provo, Utah. That was my ask. Just look at all these flights. Just look at all these flights and see if you can find anything weird on that day that I'm not catching. Cortez is a little town in Colorado. Someone asked what Cortez was. It's a little town in southwest Colorado, and it's kind of centrally located near the Four Corners region because this looks like a medevac plane that is centered around the Four Corners regions. And there's a lot of Native American reservations there. This creates a very repetitive out and back pattern with Cortez as the clear home base. However, two dates are completely different. First, November 15th, 2025 is completely different. So let's go to November 15th, 2025. Notice the difference involves a flight to Scottsdale, right there. The first flight is in the middle of the night from Santa Fe to Cortez. Then Cortez to Scottsdale, Scottsdale back to Cortez. The airplane starts the day in Santa Fe, not Cortez. It does a single round trip, Cortez-Scottsdale, and ends the day back in Cortez. In other words, it appears there's no patient pickup at a remote strip and no transport to a major hospital hub. It looks instead like a private charter or a repositioning trip rather than a medevac mission. No other day in the entire multi-month log shows this pattern. Okay, so that's November 15th. I don't know anything about November 15th. Here's the second anomaly. And this is September 10th. This is the day Charlie Kirk passed away. So let's go down to September 10th and let you look at this with me because I think this is pretty important. This is the September 10th area right here. Look how many flights there are on September 10th. It starts actually the evening before, but we'll get there. Second, the block of September 9th and 10th, 2025 also stands out as extremely unusual. In fact, it's the only other multi-flight sequence in the entire log that completely abandons the normal medevac pattern built around Cortez. Here's exactly what happens from the evening of September 9th through the end of September 10th. And this person goes and says, listen, the flight starts at Phoenix and goes from Phoenix to Cortez. That could be they pick someone up at Window Rock. They fly them to Phoenix because that's a major hospital hub for some. Window Rock is the basically like the state capital of the Navajo Nation. That's where the government is. So they go to Window Rock. They pick up a patient. They take them to Phoenix Sky Harbor because there's a major hospital there. That's what a medevac does. They get you to major trauma centers. Phoenix Sky Harbor back to Cortez Muni. And then you get a Cortez Muni to Blanding. But instead of going from Blanding on the evening of September 9th, Blanding is one of the remote airstrips where they were picking up patients over the course of this. Instead of going from Blanding to a major hospital hub like Denver or Phoenix, instead they go to Provo that night. This is the only time I could find this plane has gone to Provo. And we'll talk about that in a second. So it goes from Phoenix Sky Harbor, which looks like a patient drop-off, back to its home hub the evening of the September 9th, the day before the shooting. In the evening, it gets there at 8 o'clock. And then an hour and a half later, it leaves for a remote airstrip in Blanding, Utah. It goes from the Blanding, Utah to Provo. And then Provo back to Cortez. And it doesn't get back to Cortez till 2 in the morning. Again, Provo, Utah is not the site of a major trauma center. All the major trauma centers are Denver or Phoenix or some of these places. This is where it looks like they take major patients. But this one went to Provo. The next morning, and it spends the night in Provo, and then actually in the middle of the night, it flies back to Cortez, and that's where it goes. And the next morning at 8 a.m., it goes from Cortez to Window Rock. That's where it says it's going to be. And then it disappears from radar, meaning it's turned off its transponder or something has gone wrong with the timeline, and somehow ends up in Chinle. Now, I've been to Chinle, and I'm familiar with a lot of these names: Window Rock, Chinle, Prescott because I spent time on the Navajo reservation out there, and these names mean something to me. I've been to the Walmart in Chinle, or whatever it was over there. So it goes Cortez. It's supposed to be heading to Window Rock. All of a sudden, it disappears from radar, and instead of going to Window Rock, it ends up in Chinle. You'll notice if you click down here, there aren't a lot of Chinleys. Occasionally, but not a lot. But that's where it ends up here on September 10th. It ends up in Chinle that morning when it was supposed to be going to Window Rock, and then it leaves Chinle and it goes to Prescott, Arizona. From Prescott, Arizona, again, Prescott is not a major trauma center. It looks like it's just shuttling people at this point. From Prescott, it goes back to its home base in Cortez. And this is on the day Charlie Kirk is shot at 1 o'clock. This is 30 minutes after. It leaves Prescott before Charlie Kirk is assassinated, and it lands after Charlie Kirk is assassinated. It's in the air while that happens. But then it's not done. It leaves Cortez again, goes back to Blanding. It goes from Blanding back to Provo. From Provo back to Cortez, its home base. From Cortez back to Provo. And from Provo back to Cortez. And all of this takes place over the course of hours. It's basically a long 30-hour run of flying around, not taking people to major trauma centers. So here's how this person describes it. So on September 9th and 10th, the airplane suddenly spends 30 hours flying an intense shuttle almost exclusively between Cortez, Blanding, and Provo, Utah, much farther north than its usual operating area. This is extremely abnormal. The normal medevac world for this jet is the Four Corners region, plus the Phoenix area hospitals, occasionally Denver or Albuquerque. Provo, Utah is 350 nautical miles north, way outside the usual radius. It makes 4 trips to Provo in roughly 24 hours, something that has never happened in the history of this plane that I can find. Blanding is being used as an intermediate stop on almost every leg, also unique to this period, also never found on any other flight. So actually you have 2 clear outliers on the entire log of this airplane. September 15th, the private-looking Cortez to Scottsdale round trip, the one most people spot first. That was a parenthetical added by this person. And second, the September 9th and 10th Provo shuttle, an intense, sustained operation to a completely different region that no other day even comes close to matching. I don't know if this is suspicious or not. I'm taking the word of a professional who has looked through months of flight logs, who says, I'm somewhat familiar with this game, meaning I'm an expert, and I'm telling you right now, those 2 days don't add up. Now, do we know anyone who lives in Blanding? Do we know anyone who lives in Blanding? Do we know anybody who's been mentioned at all who lives near Blanding? Well, let's look at where Blanding is. Let's go to Google Earth and look at where Blanding is, because I think this is important to this story. Do we know anyone on Earth who's been in Blanding, Utah, or near about Blanding, Utah? Let me pull up the screen here and show you Blanding, Utah, because I think you're going to be interested in this. This is Blanding. You'll notice Blanding is in the middle of the desert. I'm going to give you some context here. That's that big dot up here. This is Salt Lake up here. That's the Great Salt Lake. Those are the Salt Lake Flats and all that. This is Salt Lake City. See all these people? This is like the only major metropolitan area in Utah. This is Provo down here. This is Provo and Utah County down there. And then you got to go all the way down here for Blanding. See, it's down here in the Four Corners region. Down here in the Four Corners region. Where did I put it? Here it is. You're going to love this, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to love what I'm about to show you. Philip K. Lyman is an American politician from Utah, a resident of Blanding. He previously represented the 69th district in the Utah House of Representatives as a Republican. You have an airplane that an actual professional identified as extremely suspicious on the day of the shooting. You have an airplane that day that was extremely suspicious that day. And this person identifies the airplane just based on the landing pattern and then looks up 90 days plus of history, 6 months of history, whatever it was, and says there are 2 weird days, actually. One day it goes to Scottsdale and back. That's weird because that's where the Kirk family lived. But the other day that's suspicious is September 9th and 10th. And here is why it's suspicious. This appears to be a medevac plane. And this person is smart enough in the ways of air traffic control that this person was able to recognize an immediate break of the flight patterns to and from Provo, Utah on the day Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And says, okay, here's the weird anomaly on the 15th. That's the thing most people are going to identify. But let me show you real quickly what happened on September 9th and 10th, because this is even weirder. Yeah, on the 9th and 10th, this medevac plane stopped serving as a medevac plane and went on like a 30-hour human shuttle mission. And this 30-hour human shuttle mission kept stopping for whatever reason in Blanding. And I thought, Blanding? What's in Blanding? So I looked up what's in Blanding. And I couldn't find anything. But I was hell-bent on finding why. I was hell-bent on finding why this plane would be diverting to Blanding. So I did what I do. I start looking. Charlie Kirk, Blanding, Charlie. And I'm searching every way I know how. And what I find is there's an interesting figure from Blanding who was at the Charlie Kirk assassination, who initially drew great suspicion, whose family owns the area or a lot of the homes in the area on the northeast side of campus where the alleged shooter was supposed to have run immediately after the shooting. That was the Phil Lyman family up there. You remember that. And you remember Phil Lyman's car was actually in the footage, the initial footage that spotted the alleged shooter walking through the neighborhood. There was an actual shot of this guy allegedly walking down the street, and in the background was Phil Lyman's car. And he said he had just arrived at the location when this happened. I'm thinking, man, there's a lot going on here. So let me get your bearings here. Here's where Charlie Kirk was neutralized, right here in this area here that looks kind of like home plate. It's a lot larger than a 17-inch home plate, I can assure you. But this area up here to the northeast of it, this is where your shooter allegedly took the shot and then ran off the roof this way. And I kept looking, saying, that just seems like misdirection to me. There's got to be something else going on somewhere else, because the shooter wouldn't do that, run into this neighborhood and park in that. That just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when there's so many doorbell cameras and all that. And then when they could really just get lost all over the rest of campus. Oh, I'm not sharing anymore. Sorry, guys. Let me share Google Earth with you. I don't know why I stopped sharing. Or maybe I never started sharing. So this is where Charlie Kirk allegedly was, or not allegedly, he was neutralized in this arena right here. This thing. The shot allegedly came from this perch right here in this area, kind of in the middle of the screen here. And then the alleged shooter runs off the top right of this building, the northeast corner of this building, and then heads into this neighborhood, drops a gun in this little patch of trees here, and then heads into the netherworld up here to pick up a car somewhere in this neighborhood. It just happens to run by a number of Ring doorbell cameras and all that kind of stuff on the way. So we get this footage. It ends up on TMZ. But the weird thing is, Candace Owens discovers Phil Lyman was actually in that video, or his car was in that video. And then discovers Phil Lyman's family actually has a great history with this neighborhood, owns a lot of the houses. And I kept looking at it thinking, why would the shooter run you right where the gun was? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. He has to know he's on camera. Took all that care and caution to avoid the cameras with his hat down and changing clothes and all that. And so when I found the Phil Lyman connection, I thought, Blanding. Now I go back and I look at the flight pattern again, and I'll pull that back up for you. Now let's go back and look at that flight pattern one more time. Am I suggesting Phil Lyman was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. Am I suggesting there were anomalous flights on what is proposed to be a medevac plane that went through Phil Lyman's hometown multiple times on the day Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Yes, that's precisely what I'm saying. That is precisely what I'm saying. There was a medevac flight that was doing medevac things over about 90 days, and one of those days, or two of those days, broke a pattern. And one of the 2 days the pattern broke involved a flight to Scottsdale, where Charlie Kirk was from, and the other, or Mikey McCoy and others were from, and the other day it broke a pattern, it flew through Blanding multiple times for no apparent reason. And this is it again. I will see if I can make it a little larger for those of you with ancient eyes. But here it is, Cortez. It goes Phoenix, Sky Harbor to Cortez. And then it goes Cortez to Blanding. This is Phil Lyman's hometown. On the evening before the shooting, and then Blanding to Provo, and lands just before midnight. And then Provo back to Cortez, Cortez back to Arizona. But it doesn't land where it said it was going to land in Arizona. This is the morning before the shooting. Instead, it goes to Chinley. It goes from Chinley to Prescott. Now, this could very well just be a pickup of some sort, but, you know, I will tell you, Window Rock and Chinley are extremely impoverished places on an Indian reservation. And then it goes to Prescott, from Prescott back to Cortez. Again, now here's your Cortez to Blanding, Blanding to Provo. Provo back to Cortez. Cortez to Provo, Provo to Cortez. Cortez to Cayenta. This is in Arizona. Cayenta to Deer Valley. That's Phoenix. This looks like a regular pickup. This looks like a regular pickup. These look like human shuttles. Now, it's possible Phil Lyman, this is how he got there. He may know the owner of this plane. This may be innocent. This may be an innocent thing, but I'm telling you right now, I've never had somebody that owns a medevac shuttle offer to shuttle me around the state when a dignitary is giving a speech. That would be a first. That would be a first for me. Has not happened to your humble host, but I'm not suggesting it's never happened. So we've broken a lot of news here today. There are a lot of leads for you guys to run down. That's what this show does. I don't make conclusions. I give you leads. You guys take the leads. You flesh them out. You get crowdsourced. You start running down stuff. You figure out what's going on. By the end of tomorrow, I know somebody's going to know everything about that medevac plane going back 2 years. I know that. And we'll be able to determine as a group, as a crowd, is this unusual? I know you guys are going to know, for example, somebody's going to need to accumulate every statement Mikey McCoy made and Blake Neff made and Rob McCoy made and Erika McCoy made about when the phone calls took place in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, because we have to start lining those up. And I know somebody's going to have to go into Rob McCoy's history and the pro-Israeli crowd's history and look at all the statements they've made about JD Vance. Is this new? Is this new? And I don't want you guys to lose sight of the fact of the headline of this. I do believe Erika Kirk is in more danger than we realized. And I know some of you guys don't like her. But I'm here to tell the truth as I see it. And I think she's in grave danger due to her support, if for no other reason, due to her support of JD Vance. I also want to know if Mikey McCoy went by Mikey or Michael. I need more than one source on that. I need 3. Because if it's 3, I'm going to report it as fact. I have one person that knew them. I need 3. Before I get to your comments, I need you guys to subscribe to the program. If you like this type of information being brought to you on a Friday night, subscribe to this channel. I need you to like the video so that it gets pushed out to more people, and then click the notification so you know when I come live. I need you also to share it with your friends. Share it on social media. I don't care if you clip it out and share it. That doesn't bother me. Some people don't like that. I don't care. It's free media, free advertising. Have fun. Don't just post the whole thing under your name somewhere. That's going to bother me. But if you take 5 minutes and say, check this out. Look what he said about Blanding, Utah. That's fine with me. Finally, I want to give an overall disclaimer. I have broken a lot of news today, but I've not drawn any conclusions as to what the news means, particularly with respect to the Blanding, Utah flight. All I can say is there's a suspicious flight that a professional air traffic control person spotted immediately as suspicious that day and said, hey, here's a medevac flight. This is clearly a medevac flight. I recognize that. And it's not acting as a medevac that day. It's acting as a human shuttle. And we don't know why. And it's going between Blanding and Provo when we don't know what's in Blanding. But something there was in Blanding, and they kept shuttling people back and forth. Took multiple trips. And then I started digging. And the only thing I could come up with is, isn't it convenient that Phil Lyman lives in Blanding? Does that mean he was on the plane? No. Does not mean he was on the plane. I am curious now how he got to Provo or to Orem. I'm very curious how he got to Orem. Finally, if you have any tips that you want to help me out on, tips that could produce shows like this or lead to shows like this, realbaronpodcast@gmail.com, realbaronpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to follow along at home in other ways, you can catch me on there, that little scroller down there. X.com/realbaronpod, so forth and so on. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me get to some of your comments here. I'm so thankful you're going live today. Besides the news in your title, that video on IG about Candace is chilling. God bless and keep you all safe. What video? I don't know what video. That video on IG about Candace. I'll have to check it out. Thank you for your donation. Oh, wow. Very generous donation. 77 e-bucks. I finally get to watch Le Baron live. Hubs and I are huge fans. Your last monologue was amazing, by the way. Us Belgians don't know much about U.S. history. Keep up the great work. Never change. Continue wiggling and be hilarious. I cannot stop wiggling, ma'am. I'm assuming, ma'am. You said husband and you're in Belgium. It could very well could be sir. But I'm going to assume, ma'am. I'm going to assume, ma'am. Thank you for the generous donation. 3343. Who are these Hydra people who think they are elite human beings directing all this BS? Who are these Hydra people? I don't know. Talking about the lizards? I got to get with the terminology of the young folks. Gag order. Why did Harpole do 6+ hours of jargon-filled interviews if a client died? That's a good question. That's a great question. I don't know why he's painting himself as a hero. He failed. Ran transcripts through at AI, 90% reputation rehab, 10% CK is 100% dead. I saw it. His rep can't be saved, so which message is the real goal here? The first, I think. I think it's reputational rehab. I think silence is not his friend here. Madam Bailey, I'm obsessed with your brain. Brilliant man. Thank you for sharing with us. It's locked away in here. So I will not do what Albert Einstein did and donate my brain upon my demise. Hopefully my demise is years from now when my brain is rotted on its own and not when it's at peak condition here at the age of 45. Has anyone else noticed a lot of YouTube channels, including yours, Baron, are in another language? Like ones I've previously seen in English. Has anyone else experienced this? Am I talking in another language? That's weird because I had well, I'm not going to tell you what I had. You guys make fun of people that have dreams. But I had a dream about another language the other night, and I didn't know what to make of it. I still don't know what to make of it. I get weirded out by my dreams. It happens a lot. I wake up from dreams, and I'm like, I'm afraid to face the day. Super sticker, Damian Ferguson, thank you so much. That's a very, very, very generous donation. Thank you for that. My husband of 32 years and I have 8 children together also. I love close relationships and a big family, and thank you for speaking of them in such a positive light. Children are a blessing. That is correct. You'll never find anywhere in the Bible where children are referred to as a curse or as a burden. So anyone who tells you children are a burden, that's unbiblical. That's demonic. The Lord speaks of children as nothing but a blessing. There is no such thing as a burdensome child. That's a demonic thought and concept. And if you think that, go to confession. Canuck Buck, $7. Can't wait to catch the show later tonight. Grandma's baby dinner, a birthday dinner. God bless you and all your fans. See you Sunday. Thanks, Drew. I'll be here Sunday. Do you know if the video of the whistleblower talking about the hit on CO is real? I don't know. I don't know if that's real or not. Is that the video they're talking about on Instagram relative to Candace? If so, yeah, that is wild. I don't know if it's real. $10. I feel a disconnect between how much goodness I have in my own life and just how much evil there is in this world. Thank you for opening our eyes, Baron. You're my favorite podcaster. You might be my favorite commenter after that. Yeah, there's a real disconnect. And you have what I think is properly referred to as survivor's guilt. When you have joy in your life, when you have genuine joy, like the Lord has, rejoice in the Lord always, and I say again, rejoice. When you have genuine joy in your life, sometimes you feel guilty. Because you look around and there are people that don't. They have anxiety. Anxiety is a sin, by the way. They have anxiety. They have worry. Worry is a sin, by the way. Stop worrying. Stop having anxiety. You have a vapor of life here. And then it's over. Do you think Charlie Kirk at age 31 wishes he could go back and stop worrying and stop having any anxiety and just live in the moment around his family? How much time did he lose with his kids because he was anxious? How much time did he lose with his kids because he was worried, or his wife? Don't do that. Worry and anxiety is sin. Confess it and ask the Lord for help to get over it. Can you please read 582 of the Quran? No, ma'am, I cannot. Oh. No, sir, I cannot. If you're going to do it, I can. I don't have a copy. I don't think I have a copy. I got a lot of religious texts over there. No, I don't think I have a copy in this room. No, I don't. I got the Bhagavad Gita in there. You will surely find the most bitter towards the believers to be the Jews, and the most gracious to be those who call themselves Christians. That is because they are not arrogant. Well, thank you. I hope that's in the Quran. I'm not an expert, but thank you for that. And thank you for your generous donation. We had some friends, we had some neighbors that were Muslims years ago, and I'd traveled to California for a military trial on 29 Palms, military base, Marine base, whatever it's called out there, Camp 29 Palms. I had a trial out there, and on my way back, we stopped at a little date stand, and I bought a big old thing of like fresh, just picked dates or whatever, just whatever they were. They're good. And I brought them back, and I thought, man, I've got too many dates. Let's give some of these to the neighbors. So my wife gave some to the neighbors, and they were in awe that we would give them dates, because for them, dates were very holy food, because it's what the Virgin Mary ate after giving birth to Jesus, that she used the dates for sustenance and to reintroduce vigor. And so that's the way it was explained to me. Again, I'm not a Quranical expert. Nobi Desco, Mexican Bucks, imagine how many millions of young Christian Americans would have followed Charlie in abandoning the Israel cause. Don't forget CK opposed war in Iran. Agreed. That's correct. That's precisely part of the problem. Jessica Bishke, doing Christmas decorations with the family right now. Happy holidays. Rocking around the Christmas tree, though you are. Some people listen to Christmas. This family listens to how is the government trying to kill you today? Not the government, man. Well, maybe. Merry Christmas to everyone. Stay safe out there. I hope that this show has provided you the inspiration you need to properly spin the garland around the old fir tree. Good call on JD Vance, brother. You want to like him, want to believe in him, but he makes your spidey sense tingle. Plus, my Latina wife doesn't like how Erika hugged him. She told me to tell you. A lot of people's wives did not like how Erika hugged him. But to hear Erika tell it, she's just a huggy person. And if there's weirdness there, I'm not going to try to speculate. Well, it'll come out. If there's weirdness there, it'll come out. Mr. PG Whitaker II, $5 went to Charlie went to his church once in 4 years, is what he said himself. I am so over this Israel propaganda. I'm sick of this crap in the worst way. It's a lot of it. A whole lot of it. TPUSA pastor's been saying Candace is diabolical, evil, and asking for an applause after saying that. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that video. Can you imagine a purported preacher taking a stage in front of a lot of people, calling someone who professes Christ evil, and then demanding an applause? Come on. That's wild. That is wild. On stage. L-Bucks. Hi, Baron. Polish woman in the UK here. I love how your lawyer mind explains things. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've started copying your style minus the wiggling and cadence. Well, if you don't wiggle, you don't have my style. It's helping me professionally and in real life. I used to tell people on the radio show that I was not here to tell them what to think. I was there to give them glasses so that they learned how to see the news. If I can help you construct a pair of glasses that you can put on so that you know how to read the news, you know how to interpret tweets, you know how to look at a news story and say, oh, I know what's going on there. I see what they're saying. Then I've done my job. I don't want you to have to rely on me. But you can. I mean, you can. You can be here. I'll be here. I'll be here again Sunday. How could he see that he had blood everywhere to tell his dad when he called? He walked away immediately. If he called his dad after he walked away, that makes no sense. Maybe Blake left pretty quick too. I don't know. I don't trust any of them. I just don't trust any of them. It doesn't take that long to say it's done. Yeah, you and me both. How could Mikey know about the neck wound or blood? He was looking downward and then bolted away. Yeah. I mean, that's a common refrain that people have on this whole thing. The video footage doesn't show Mikey. I can't even type that name. It's so gay. He's a happy man. He loves the Flintstones. Dialing a phone number. He immediately puts the phone to his ear after the shot. That person was already on the line. Yeah, I think so. These people were expecting the "it's done" call. Yeah, I mean, you would think Charlie Kirk is. This is kind of the counterfactual argument of that. You would think Charlie Kirk is high profile enough that you wouldn't need an "it's done" call, unless the "it's done" call is get the hell out of town, withdraw your team from around town. Like, we don't know where the team was. We don't know if the gun had to be planted. Like, I'm just thinking total conspiratorially here. But we don't know what was planted where. Did someone have to throw a screwdriver up on the roof? Did someone have to plant a gun by the chicken coop? Did someone have to go over to the Dairy Queen and drop some people off? Did somebody have to get some stuff out of the hotel and plant it? I don't know. So yeah, and "it's done" call would, if there were other operators that had to immediately spring into action, that would make a lot of sense. But just the fact that confirmation that Charlie had gotten shot, I mean, the world had that pretty quick, like within a couple minutes. He's one of the most famous people his age in America. But if there was a team and that team had to execute on certain things, the "it's done" call would have been helpful. But then why Mikey? Why not one of the team members? You know, surely they're looking. I don't know. Just thinking here, thinking out loud. When Angela, $10. I love your trial attorney style. Personally have a question. You don't have to answer. Are you a friend of Bill W? Did you get sober without meetings? I don't know who Bill W is. You have been open, so I ask. I didn't go to meetings. I just quit drinking. And yeah, I don't knock people who go to meetings. I had some friends that I reached out to that I knew had gotten sober. But I'm one of those people, like, I don't want the pressure. Because if you tell everyone ahead of time I'm going to quit drinking, then if you fail, like, you're a total failure. It's easier just to quit and then like a week later say, I haven't had a drink in a week. That way, because I've quit before and I didn't quit, you know. I don't know who Bill W is. I'm sure he's a great guy. Yes, guests will be given scrubs if going into infectious disease area or into a surgical suite. Do guests often go into trauma surgery? Like, is this evidence that the guests were in the surgical suite? Because that's weird. Now, I tell you what, Brian Harpole did say he cut Charlie Kirk's shirt off at the hospital, which I always found was a little strange. Like, don't you have doctors who can do that with Dr. Scissors? If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. That's why their story keeps changing. I think a lot of it is Rob McCoy strikes me as the like smart aleck in a Corvette that had too much to drink and got pulled over at 2 a.m. and thinks he can talk his way out of it. And thinks he can he's like 9 beers deep and is like, oh, I'm smarter than this cop. I can get out of this. I've had 2 beers, officer. Happy to step out of the car and do your stupid human tricks. I'll pass these with flying colors. And then he's like $15,000 later is paying a DUI lawyer. That's what Rob McCoy reminds me of. Mikey said on the Charlie Kirk show, his poor dad didn't know for 3 days he wasn't covered in blood, but he sees him a few hours later. It's amazing how the story evolves. It would have been nice at the hotel, Mikey, if you'd have just said, oh, Dad, by the way, I wasn't covered in blood. I ran like a scared little chicken. I had to call Eliza and then Erika and then you and all in under 75 seconds. That would have been nice. No idea. I had no idea Mikey was at a hotel in Salt Lake City until I heard that sermon a couple days ago. No idea. Now, you know why I didn't do that, this whole show with the planes. It is so hard deciding what order to cover stuff in. You know why I didn't do this show with the planes and the sermon on Wednesday? Because no one was here. You guys were all over the river and through the woods on the way to grandmother's house. That was one of the lowest watched shows in history. I figured I'd do it on Friday after Thanksgiving when more people would be around. Remember, Candace verified the UVU event being live streamed back to TPUSA headquarters. They've already watched it live. But was Rob at the TPUSA headquarters? I don't believe he was. I think he was in California. Sounded like he was at home. Now, it's even weirder if he is watching live from the TPUSA headquarters. That's even weirder. I could be wrong. Been wrong before. Jillian Faith, VA, $4.99. I bet you're a damn good lawyer. Impeccable attention to detail. Thank you for all you do. I'm not, I don't toot my own horn. I've had fun practicing law for 20 years. I'll tell you that. I've had some really fun cases. I've traveled all over the country trying cases. I've tried some hard cases, and I've gotten my teeth kicked in just because they're unwinnable. And you're really just trying the case, hoping for some appellate issue to survive. And I've tried some cases we were supposed to win and did, and I've tried everything in between and had some fun and won some cases we were supposed to lose and lost some cases maybe we should have won. So, any lawyer that tells you never loses is a liar, lie to you about anything else. But I've had a hell of a lot of fun, and I feel like I've given my clients the best I can give, the best opportunity they had for the money they could afford. So, obviously, if you have trillions of dollars, you can hire whole teams of people with experience. But I've had fun. And I feel like I've done a good job. But thank you for your kind words. Belky, Canuck Bucks, the hotel you spoke about last time was one of the biggest leads, in my opinion. Are we not talking about that anymore? No deep dive on this. Speaking to hotel staff, comparing to people on flights. I have gotten emails of people who have been to the hotel and taken pictures of the cameras in the lobby. And just because I'm not covering it today doesn't mean that it's not being worked on. But yeah, the La Quinta Inn is definitely still a thing, as is the fact that the La Quinta Inn is on the preferred military vendor list for the United States. I don't know that that's related or not, but I've noticed it, and I've had several people email me talking about that they're in the military and they stay at La Quintas because that's where the military tells them to stay. So I've heard that. So yeah, we're working on it, Epilkey, up there in Canada. Do you vacation in Banff? Isn't that like our Denver or Aspen or something? Ian, Tucker, and Candace need to form the AJ, the American Journalists of America, organized. I had this conversation with somebody the other day that I'm not sure joining an organization is nearly as effective in the future as just a respect for other people who do the same thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Oh, did you do this twice? Norman, love. Thank you. You did it twice. I don't know if you meant to. Yeah, your next comment's on me, good sir. I was in the hospital with my mom every day for over a year. I was given scrubs one time after she had brain surgery to keep the environment as sterile as possible, not normal practice. Otherwise, I've never seen it. Of course, I haven't been to the hospital terribly too many times. I broke my leg and went to the hospital a few years ago. And no one that came to visit me got scrubs, but we weren't bleeding either. And I have been present at the birth of 8 children and have never been given scrubs. But those were all largely without incident. One was a little squirrely, but most of them were without incident. And so I was never offered nor accepted a pair of scrubs. Nor blankets when it's like 37 degrees in there. Not those either. Sent email with image of shot. Mikey not watching. I'll check that out. Thank you for your additional donation to get that in. Rob McCoy, on the other hand, no spidey sense needed for this dirtbag. Hey, that's your opinion, sir, not mine, just because I'm reading it out loud. You spend enough time on this earth and you learn something about good and evil. The guy's 100% on the wrong side again. Rob, take it up with Neem 7272. I'm just reading the comments. Papa D. Trollinger. I love your show. I travel a lot for work. It's quickly become one of my favorites. I tried not to miss any of your lives. Keep up the good work. Pappy D. Trollinger, I appreciate that. I genuinely appreciate that. I wish you the best of luck in your travels. I know how hard it is to travel and be away from family. And I'm sure they appreciate your hard work. It's tough, man. Life on the road is tough. I did that for a while. Life on the road is very, very, very tough. Even just tough on you in general, just because you sleeping in hotels, don't really know where you are. Sometimes it's tough. But thanks for the generous donation there. Why on earth is Charlie on a platform like that? That's a good question. I've asked it many times. They had him way up high where he could be spotted above the crowd from rooftops. Well, I guess because their low IQs believed that the rooftops were covered by the police, even though the police said nothing of the sort. They talked only of the rooftop directly above him and behind him. They said nothing about the Sorensen Center, the Losi Center, rather. Tell you that. Darcy P, that's a past show. You can go back and watch that. I assume you guys watch every show. Did you hear a French person has warned Candace to stay off air for 90 days? I did not. They could have already hit her, and one half government is in the know. What about Mikey at Physician's Lot picking someone up day of? So let me start with the last sentence first. I don't know that was ever confirmed. One person said that and then disappeared. So that's the answer to that part. The first and second sentences. Yeah, I think one of the terrifying things that could happen to you is someone showing you a picture of your head through a scope. That would be terrifying to me. I don't know that's happened, but I've not seen that. I will. Is that like super popular and I just missed it today and all the hubbub because I was prepping for this show? I'm gonna take a picture of that and check it out. Thank you. Thank you for the generous donation as well. Thank you, Amy Sardinola, 1,100 for the $10. Very generous. He walked away knowing there wasn't going to be a second shot. Yeah, I noticed everybody else was running, and he walked right behind the shooter, right behind where the shooter had taken a shot at Charlie. Meaning, if there was a second shot and it missed, it would have gone right through the back screen. Or if it had actually been a 30-06, it would have gone right through the back screen. It wasn't a 30-06. It could not have been a 30-06. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. I'm sure there are people out there with these YouTube channels dedicated to firearms that think I'm an idiot for saying such a thing. But a normal 30-06 fired from a normal 30-06 rifle at a normal 142-yard distance is probably going to also injure or neutralize the people behind the intended target in the tent back there. But remember, Charlie had a kryptonite neck. Really, really tough stuff. Yeah, but he walked right behind the shot. It would be like you're on a target, like you're on a live range, right? A nice live range, and you're standing right next to the target. You're 142 yards from where the people are on sandbags shooting, and you're right next to the target. You hear a shot go off, and then you walk right behind the target on a live range. That's the equivalent of what he did. Great live if the short phone calls are accurate. They seem like mission accomplished announcements. Have a great weekend. That would be one interpretation. I'm not suggesting that's what they were, but that is an interpretation. I will be stunned. I will not accuse him of lying or anything else. I would like to see the actual records from AT&T or Verizon. I don't trust his screenshots at this point, not Mikey. I will be stunned if there is legitimate, verifiable, authenticated evidence that would be admissible at trial that demonstrate Mikey McCoy made 3 phone calls in under a minute and a half. Telling his wife, Charlie's wife, and his father that Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck. And none of them said anything more than like, oh, okay, bye. I'll be stunned. I'll be absolutely shocked. I would be shocked if you could get rid of one of them in under a minute and a half. Think about this. Your spouse calls you and says the boss was just gunned down. And you just like, all right. Not like, oh my gosh, are you safe? Oh my gosh, is there a live shooter? Oh my gosh, did you call 911? Oh my gosh, is he doing okay? Oh my gosh, is he still alive? Oh my gosh, are you on the way to the hospital? Oh my gosh, do they have the person? Oh my gosh, where are you? Oh my gosh, are you safe? Oh my gosh, how are you going to get out of there? Oh my gosh. None of that, just, yeah, cool. Got it, Mikey. It's weird. I'll be honest, totally weird. Totally weird. Not the only weird thing. Not the only weird thing about this case, by the way. How did Mikey know that CK was dead? How did Mikey know that CK was dead? He immediately turned around and walked away. How did he know where he was shot exactly? He turned his back. He couldn't be so sure. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this. He could have seen the volcanic eruption out of his neck and turned around and walked off and assumed the shot hit him in the neck. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But I'll admit it was under a second. That's weird. I believe there's an interview somewhere of Erika saying she had many missed calls from Mikey before she picked up finally. Just FYI for a timeline. I would like to see that because that would totally wreck the entire timeline because a missed call has to ring, I think, 4 or 5 times unless it goes straight to voicemail. In which case, how did she pick it up and get his call? That would be shocking. If you see that, Jillian, will you email that to me at realbaronpodcast@gmail.com? I'd like to see that. Terrell Farnsworth making a selfie video. They shot Charlie, not someone shot Charlie. They, who's they? That's an anti-Semitic question, sir. That's anti-Semitic. Excuse me, sir. Ma'am. Fido. Woofy. You're not allowed to ask that question. We don't do plural pronouns in this community anymore. There's something wrong with that. Rob McCoy will put you on a list with JD Vance and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes if you continue to use plural pronouns. Thanks for the live. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mikey was standing to the side and behind Charlie Kirk when he walked away immediately after the shot. How the heck could he see the blood? We just covered that. I don't know. Thank you, Adriana. We don't know how he could have seen it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. There was such a reaction of blood so quickly and so immediately that he could have seen this fountain coming from Charlie's neck and thought, oh, I got to get out of here. In which case, walk right behind him? In case there's another shot coming, you walk right behind the target? It's weird. Savage Princess, didn't Rob McCoy say in his original sermon when talking about this conversation with Mikey and him being covered in blood that he saw him? I'd have to go back and look. That's a great callback if that's true. I can go back and watch that original sermon. Let me take a picture of that. I'll go back and watch that original sermon to see exactly what he said and then line it up with what he said this time. Changing stories are not good for you, sir. I'm awake for your show, sir. Truth lovers find you. It's only like 11:30 over there in England, maybe 12:30. You're using L-Buck, so I assume you're in the United Kingdom. You should be awake. It's Friday night. We're partying tonight, sir. Love the fired up version of Barron. Yeah, you get that occasionally, Gina. Occasionally, you're going to get it. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. PW Stoll, thank you for the generous donation. Oremus, Gloria Patri. Oremus. That's what the priest does at the Mass. Oremus. Travis and Nelly here. Keep up the great work. By the way, Travis and Nelly. Who are do I know Travis and Nelly? By the way, the volume has never been an issue every time we watch your show go Max. I heard about the volume that it might be people watching on certain formats, like Roku, I heard has volume issues. I could be wrong. It could very well be me. One day I will make enough money off of this that I will hire someone to come in and actually set the sound up so that I'm telling you, your ears are going to be it's going to be glorious. It's going to be absolutely glorious. One more thought, looking at the crossed arms, Homeboy might be running some medicinal hormone therapy replacement, like I have heard some old guys do, can lead to some aggressive reactions. I don't want to think about that. Goodness. I don't want to think about an aggressive reaction from Rob. I get enough aggressive reaction just from his tight pants. I don't need to see that. I worry about that old man. In the Sean Ryan interview, Brian Harpole said he was standing with the chief of staff at the hospital when the vice president called. That's a good question. That's a good point, man. So that means, if that's true, and the chief of staff allegedly was at the hospital. This is great. Great comment, Jelly Bean. Great comment. Thank you for your L-Bucks. The chief of staff allegedly was the one the surgeon told that Charlie had passed, and he said, nobody's breathed a word of this. Erika's not going to hear it from anybody but me. Remember, that was Blake Neff's version of events. I think it was Blake. Yeah, that was Blake Neff's version of events. So the chief of staff allegedly was at the hospital and then left the hospital to go to Salt Lake. That's what we're piecing together based on these changing stories. Great comment, by the way. The NSA has who Mikey was talking to. Yeah, that's true. But they're never going to give it to you. People have subpoenaed the NSA in like divorce cases, proving that they will not hand over what they have. Mikey was faster to change clothes than Tyler. Oh, I didn't know Tyler changed clothes. I don't have X or Instagram. Any updates from Candace? Sent you an email with a clip from DD Got a Podcast. I'll check it out, Elo. I don't know. Let me get through these, and if I have time at the end, I'll go look at X. I don't know that I'll have time. It's already 5:30, and I got stuff. That's why I went early today. Got some plans tonight. Some plans. You're so right, Baron, about tech bros versus Israeli loyalists and neocons. I have a bad habit of being right, sir. Just another Coleman? In Europe? Are you a distant cousin? I think the Colemans originally were from the Cologne area. It was originally Kuhlmann. Kuhlmann. Are you one of them? Anyway, I digress. Yes, I have a bad habit of being right. We are ruled by factions of billionaires, not political figures or parties. Correct. Same thing happening across all Western countries. Correct. The billionaires control the elections. There's no doubt about it. Don't ever forget it either and think you have an influence. Provide commentary, get out and vote, sure. But ultimately, they'll tell you who the president is. Giving Mike grace, presuming he didn't know the death was coming, the skull and crossbones were coming. Rob did, though. Did he get an unexpected call from Daddy, hoping to protect him from accusations of involvement? Incoming surprise call from Rob could explain his behavior. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting theory. I've not heard that one. Thank you for your generous donation of L-Bucks. Anthony, $10. See Sean Ryan. So 21028. Brian Harpole said he was standing next to the chief of staff, Mikey, at the hospital. We just covered that. Thank you. I also believe TPUSA show said Mikey was at the hospital. Why didn't Sailor Rob see him? That's a good question, which leads me to believe, again, if we can synthesize all these stories, and when you go to a jury, when you're doing your closing argument, and the judge reads out the jury instructions, if they come from the pattern jury instructions, the judge will read out an instruction that says, hey, Your job is to synthesize all the evidence if you can. If you cannot synthesize the evidence, your job is to determine who was being truthful and who was not. Now, you can discount anyone you believe was being truthful. And if you believe anyone was being truthful, untruthful at any time, you can discount everything they said. So I take a juror's approach to this stuff. I assume everyone's telling the truth. I try to synthesize it all. And when I can't synthesize it, I think, who is not being honest? And if I catch anyone being dishonest at any time, now I'm free to discount everything they say. And so synthesizing a Mikey McCoy presence at the hospital, you would have to say Mikey left. He didn't go in the SUV with Charlie because he was walking out towards the parking lot with Blake. He makes his 3 calls. He somehow gets to the hospital. We don't know how he got there. I'm not aware that we've been told how he got there. He gets to the hospital. Now, you have someone who said you saw him speed off. I don't know if that's true or not, because now you have Brian Harpole and Blake Neff saying he was inside the hospital. Harpole saying that he was standing next to him, and Blake Neff saying that Mikey McCoy talked to the surgeon, learned that Charlie had passed, and said, she's only going to hear it from me, talking about Erika. And so at that point, if we're continuing to synthesize all the evidence, that's when he had to have left at some point between then and when Rob showed up an hour or two later. Now, why did he leave when his dad was on the way? What was it in Salt Lake City that he had to go do? What was so important up there in Salt Lake? I don't know the answer to any of this. I don't know the answer to any of this. What hotel was it? Can you tell us that? What the heck? No notification for live. I do not control that, mail lady. I do not control that. I count on YouTube to do the job. Thank you for showing up late. On September 10th, Arizona time and Utah time are the same. Blake Neff timestamp on the call to his mom happened to be at 11:24 in Utah and in Arizona, both or neither. Yeah, but by the time Blake Neff produced that screenshot, that's when we would know. Like, we'd need to know. Assuming he took the screenshot on that day, yeah, the time would have been the same. But once daylight savings time changed, and Arizona doesn't change, by the way, so they're always on Arizona time, they would have gone off of Mountain Time at the time change, the first Sunday, I think, in November. So if he produced that screenshot after the first Sunday of November, there would have been a 1 hour difference. I felt a little bit like a beautiful mind right there going through that. Blanding is Phil Lyman. Look at the Heber City, Utah airports. Thank you. You're either joining late or I'm reading a comment from about the time that I covered that fact. Yeah, Blanding is Phil Lyman. Look at Heber City, Utah airports. What is that? Are you telling me you've seen something there, or are you just telling me that you think there might be something there? Rob McCoy also claimed he was on a plane coming back from Ireland when he found out about Charlie Kirk's shooting. It's in the post-death interview on Kirk Revival in Korea video. Check out minute 4 to 5. Love the show. Is that true? Is that true? This is why we crowdsource this stuff, people. I can't remember everything I've seen. Rob McCoy also claimed he was on a plane coming back from Ireland when he found out about Charlie Kirk shooting. Well, if that's the case, was Mikey able to call into the plane? I'll look at that. Post-death interview, Kirk Revival in Korea video. I'll check it out. 4 to 5 minutes. I've got a picture. Good tip. Good tip. New things for TPUSA 10.9. One was live streaming with 2 AV tech. Oh, you're using 10.9 in the European sense. Ma'am, this is an American show. 10.9 to us is October 9th, and that was confusing to me at first. Now I realize these are L-Bucks, and you're talking about September 10th. One was live streaming with 2 AV techs in Arizona. Streaming not new, but new from Arizona, related to the removed SD card, was Rob McCoy in Arizona. Candace discussed this. I don't know whether Rob McCoy was in Arizona, but somebody flew in from California. And I just assumed that was Rob McCoy. If Rob McCoy was in Arizona, then did he fly with Erika? Because I don't think there was a second plane that came in. Let me look. I got all the planes pulled up from that day. I don't think there was a second plane that flew in from Scottsdale or Phoenix that day. Here's one that left Scottsdale 4 minutes after Charlie Kirk got shot on September 10th. That would be unbelievable timing. and then went to Provo. That would just be unbelievable timing, because that one left at 12:27 Mountain Standard Time. Oh, Mountain Standard. No, I think there was an hour different, because this is Mountain Daylight. So that would have been an hour later. Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to look at that. I don't want to waste you guys' time doing research while I'm reading through these comments. I'll look at it. Thank you. Oxgalox, $88. Thank you very much for the generous donation. I will not ask how you landed on that number. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. $4.99. Chanduli. I've stopped pronouncing names because I'm not very good at them. Mikey McCoy's uncle and Rob's brother Michael and his wife crashed a plane and died together 10 days after Charlie. Both were pilots in medevac. What? Mikey McCoy's uncle and Rob's brother Michael and his wife crashed a plane and died together 10 days after Charlie. Both were pilots and medevac employees? Is that true? I don't recall hearing that. Well, I've got a lot to research. I have a lot to research. What's Nokia bucks? Just like the old brick phone? No currency. What is that? Norwegian krone. Actually, we've had Nokia bucks before. Thank you. And the snake on the Nokia 3310 was great to play in college. That was peak technology back in the late 90s. I think that's Swedish, right? Baron just seriously moved the needle with this new plane. We'll build on this tonight for Free Speech Friday. Awesome work, man. I'm going to tune in. I told Ian I was going early so I could watch Free Speech Friday. That's my plan I have for tonight. I was going to tell you that at the end of the show. Be there. Be there. Free Speech Friday is going to be lit tonight. Ian Carroll show. What time's he going? 7-ish? 8-ish? We'll get there. We'll get there. I got to have time to eat a little dinner. I got to run an errand, and then I'm going to be planted firmly on my couch for Free Speech Friday. No pressure. No pressure, Ian. No pressure. Thank you for the generous donation, as always. Ronnie, great work, Baron. Thank you for all your valuable time and assessment. I do my best, Ronnie. I do it for you, sir, or ma'am. Not sure which. I know a Ronnie woman, and I know a Ronnie man. I'm going with sir. Holy blank, Baron. Well done. Thank you, Kristen Bartle. Thank you. I do my best. I do my best. According to AI, retired Lieutenant Colonel Michael McCoy, Mikey's uncle, and his wife Heather McCoy died in a plane crash near Louise, Texas on September 20th. Well, that, my friends, is new information to me. And I have got to get on that. Because that's, especially if they're medevac people, that's new information. Guys, don't ever get involved in a crime. Don't get involved in a crime. You're probably going to be especially a crime with murder, because now you're involved with people who don't mind committing crimes and don't mind taking life. You think yours is that valuable? Don't get involved, ladies and gentlemen. Stay out the bushes. I found out yesterday that Erika Kirk has a doppelganger. She was the wife of Claude Kirk, Florida senator. Look at some side-by-side pictures. I saw that, and it's creepy. It's totally creepy. She could be a time traveler. Like, that's time traveler stuff there. I don't think it's I think it's just weird, total coincidence, but that's weird. Lyman left in that dark silver Tesla from Life is Driving video, said he went to his aunt's house. Why did he get into a car? That's a good question. His aunt's house was just across the street. I'm not piling on Lyman, but there's a point in the Life is Driving video where they're standing kind of by the parking deck, that parking lot right outside the parking deck. It's probably 45 minutes into it. And Adam Bartholomew walks up. He's Life is Driving. Adam Bartholomew, a.k.a. Life is Driving, walks up to Phil Lyman. And he says, "Hey, Phil, did you see what happened?" And Phil was like, "No." Should we play that? Gosh, should we play that? I don't know if I can find it quick enough. That's one of the. We probably should play it in the context of. In the context of.
Adam, where are you, brother? Oh, here it is. Raw footage. In the context of, yeah, here it is. Check this out. I might have to skip around a little bit to find it, but y'all are not going to want to miss this. This is awesome if you haven't seen this.
Cops are showing up. Yeah. Yes. The cops are showing up. Are you sure people are? Yeah, they're estimate pushing everybody out. I see what happened.
How are you?
Did you see what happened, Phil?
No.
What a weird reaction. I don't know if you can hear it. Did you see what happened? No. A man's neck just exploded. Let's have a little sympathy, Phil. Watch it again. It's so quiet. I don't know if I can turn it up or not. And keep in mind, there's a little bit of an audio delay. I'm not sure what happened with Adam's technology.
No.
Oh, I didn't go back far enough. Here. Watch this.
I see what happened.
How are you?
Did you see what happened, Phil?
No. I was pretty.
That has always weirded me out. His audio's laggy. I don't know why. But Adam goes, "Hey, did you see what happened?" He's like, "Ha, ha, no." Almost like he flew in from Blanding on a medevac. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that was like the weirdest part of the entire video, the Life is Driving video. Well, that's bright. Here we go. There's been some historical extra-jurisdictional special weapons development on Indian reservations out west. Just a thought. I was unaware of this historical extra-jurisdictional special weapons development. I am familiar with some other illegal activity that is kind of rampant on some Indian reservations out there. I don't know whether a medevac plane would... I don't know. I just know it's weird. I'm telling you, that whole plane is weird. Hopefully, I've given enough that people can run with it and tell me whether it truly is weird or not. 3648 of the raw Life is Driving video. Lyman is spotted by the stairs in case you need proof of his exact location 18 minutes after the shooting. Yeah. I've seen that one, spotted by the stairs and spotted in the parking lot. The parking lot's where he does the, yeah, no. I'm still at the monologue. Is it terrible that I laughed so hard at your reenactment of Mikey McCoy's 3 calls? You're so great. No, it's not weird at all. I'm not a comedian. I know there's a lot of like great podcasters who started out as comedians. Oh gosh, what's the guy that always wears the hat and the glasses? And he's funny. He's hilarious. I'm having a name moment. I can't think of his name right now. Obviously Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, Theo Vaughn, and others. I'm not a comedian. I'm a washed up radio host, lawyer turned podcaster. So is Erika still being followed by the planes? I don't know. I do not know. Others are covering that one. The shape of the space at UVU looks like a menorah. Also, did JD kiss the wall? I think instead of kissing the wall, didn't he go like kiss Jesus's tomb or something? Didn't that happen? Or did I just miss that? I direct people to you daily. You've earned it. Thank you, Edge. Thank you. I appreciate that. Direct them also to the Lord, please, ma'am. He deserves it as well. He's earned it as well. I have ancient eyes and can't find my glasses. Thank you for blowing it up. You're welcome, Kristen Bartle. I would never lead you in the cold like that. Super sticker, thank you. Ott. JM, I recently found your channel. Very thankful for what you're doing. Speaking truth to power is apparently very dangerous these days. May God bless you and keep your family and keep you all safe. Thank you for that. I sure hope we stay safe, Jay. Hope you stay safe as well, my friend, and appreciate your generous donation, and thanks for joining the program. Code Gray, anxiety is a sin the same way diabetes is a sin. Prozac banished my sinful anxiety. No, man, those are different. Well, it might be if your diabetes is caused by excess carbohydrate intake. It could very well be the sin the same way. No, God told us not to worry, ma'am or sir. And when God tells you something, he means it. And that means he means it's possible. If you truly believed in the promises of God, I mean, there have been people singing hymns as they're being run over by steamrollers. These are the Korean martyrs. They lined them up on the road, tied them down, and ran over them with a steamroller. And they were singing hymns. There have been people that were singing hymns when they were thrown to lions. If they can be happy and joyous in those conditions, you can be happy and joyous in yours. I promise. That's not to say I don't suffer from the sin of anxiety and worry. I do. But I recognize it's a sin. And if I had more confidence and more faith, I wouldn't have the anxiety and worry. And so I pray the prayer of the Roman guard. I believe, help me in my unbelief. Going to be cold in West Lafayette tonight. Go Hoosiers. That is a fact, Jack. But the Hoosiers will win by 59. Disregard the timestamp issue. Grok was wrong. What timestamp issue are we talking about? Timestamp issue. Oh. You're talking about the Blake Neff's phone call? I didn't look at Grok on that, sir. But you're saying you might have. The video is claiming next time Candace goes on air, they're going to kill her live on air, so we see it. That she needs to disappear for the next 90 days. That's a bold claim, and I hope no one actually made that claim. And guys, we got to stop. This is speech. Let's just speak. This is speech. We should be allowed to have a free exchange of ideas. That is what America was founded on, right? We've got to stop this nonsense. No one should be in danger for giving a podcast. It's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. How did Mikey even see there was blood everywhere? He turned away so fast. Yeah, that question's been raised quite a bit. Are the planes still following Erika? Don't know. That also has been raised quite a bit. Apparently, people are very concerned about those planes. Canuck Bucks, thank you, guy. Mikey McCoy's covered in blood claim and retraction does not stand if he spoke to his son or watched any of the video footage of the hit prior to making the statement at the pulpit. I tend to agree. The fact that he is now saying he saw his son in a hotel in Salt Lake City 3, 4, 5 hours after the shooting completely means that he was lying. It suggests to me that, in my opinion, he was being less than honest. I tell you, the manufacturer of this hat, whoever used this Scotch tape, really lagging today. The planes also stopped in Santa Barbara Airport, where Eliza McCoy's father works. There's a large Ukrainian Zionist community. Eliza and Mikey were prepped to take the TP throne and be in D.C. in 2036. I don't know that that's true. I mean, I know that Santa Barbara is where she's from. But it's also 45 minutes or an hour away from where Rob was, and it might have been the fastest place he could get to a private jet to get to Provo. I don't know. I'm assuming he came in on that Santa Barbara flight. I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong. It might have been Eliza coming in, for all we know, on that flight. They've not told us which flight he was on. I'm just making an educated guess. I don't know what D.C. in 2036 means. If you're talking president, Mikey ain't never going to be president. Mikey can barely speak. No one's electing Mikey to anything. Please look into the FRC and Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. FRC equals pipeline. TPUSA faith equals the apogee of DC's infiltration of churches across the nation. I have detailed facts. Faithful to. Email me, realbaronpodcast@gmail.com. Email me and put Jerry Boykin in the subject line, please, sir. UT's chief lover. UT Chiefs lover. Baron. Oh, sorry. There were 2 exclamation points. I thought I had to get loud. Irony. Call my daughters in Blanding for Thanksgiving and heading back up north this evening. Do you want any pics or videos for anything in Blanding? No, I don't. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Love your Max. I don't, but thank you. Thank you for that offer. Very generous offer. And thank you for the very generous donation as well. Have you watched the documentary Never in America? Redacted News covered it a few days ago. It's horrific what's been happening to children right under our nose. I've not seen it. And I do like Redacted. I didn't see them cover that. Diane Doyle, thank you. Very generous $50 donation. You need to go to Oglethorpe, color burgundy. That kid, the color, the P we're wearing, and it would fit to choose. Oof. Also, email you the info about 9/11 apartment and stuff we found. Yeah, please email me. I don't know what you're talking about, Oglethorpe. Yeah, I know there were a lot of people wearing maroon. There's no doubt about that. It looked like a kind of a Chicago maroon. Before Charlie Kirk died, Savage Princess, my friends thought him and JD were the only way a guaranteed win could happen for 2028. Hearing Rob McCoy diss JD, CO, TS, and NF makes me wonder. It made me sit up in my seat and take notice because Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson are like anathema to Rob McCoy. The fact that he would lump JD in with them and say, God forbid, JD Vance, woo, woo. They are hot after him. Something has changed. Is there any way to know when McCoy purchased a plane ticket to Utah and the hospital? No. Not that I'm aware of. I doubt he purchased a plane ticket. These people fly private. Not all the time, but, you know, I'm assuming that was a private plane. A lot of private planes in and out of Utah that day. A lot of private planes in and out whenever they travel. Victor Gallegos. I'm now convinced Phil indirectly hired Twiggy to convince Tyler to walk through the motions. No shot, no spent shell casings. I'm not convinced Phil did anything illegal. That's Victor Gallegos. I am raising the issue that Phil's hometown was the subject of some multiple flights from a medevac. I don't know what that means, though. But thanks for your donation. Darn, I'm really late, Baron. I just wanted to say I genuinely admire your investigative skills and how charismatically you present your research. By the way, what kind of lawyer are you? Ooh, Suzanne. I can't tell you what kind of lawyer I am. Not someone you would hire right now if you needed anything, I don't think. It depends on what you do for a living. I've done in the past civil litigation and criminal work and nonprofit work and electoral work, and I've been in-house counsel for a few different companies. So that gives you an idea of things I've done. But I'm not going to tell you where I work right now. Tiffany Whitehead, 7557. Thank you for the generous donation. Max Wiggle, $5. Thank you. And I will wiggle. I continue to wiggle. I don't know if you see me. Someone told me to get a more comfortable chair. I can assure you it's not the chair. It's the ADD, sir. The chair doesn't care. Have you received any shekels from Super Chats? I don't believe so. Is that did they really use shekels? Is that what is Israeli money called? Do they use shekels? Yeah, it's a shekel, a new shekel, not an old shekel. They're about 3 to 1 to the dollar. I don't believe I have. I wouldn't know it if I did. I don't know how they denote it. But I don't think so. Good call. On the CK show, Mikey said his dad had nightmares for a month after thinking Mikey was covered in blood. A month. Yeah, you would think at that point they'd have talked about it. I just don't know that I believe everything they say. I'm late. Bye. Got to rewind. Bye. Brandy. Billy. They have a great program. I can't wait until they start putting out a lot of material. It's going to be great. They're good. They're natural. I made the comment after 2 weeks ago. Y'all need to go check their videos out. Brandy and Billy show on YouTube. I made the comment after 2 weeks ago that July 3rd sermon, he's still Michael. 1 minute, 07 in transcript becomes Mikey after Israel trip. Interesting. Was he Michael back in July of this year? I'm going to look that up. How long has he been Mikey? Mr. Let Go is saying CO will be killed live on air. I hope that's not true. Guys, that is... Stop it. Not you, ma'am, obviously. But other people, stop it. You cannot say stuff like that. Didn't Eliza plan the event? I don't know that. I know she worked in events for TPUSA. Mikey had his phone up like he was filming. He did. And he apparently took a picture just before. Could he have FaceTimed her? You know where I'm going. I do see where you're going. I don't know. I just want to say you're an inspiration. Well, thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Frog. Not every day I talk to a frog. I don't know why, but the Spirit wanted me to say they will know we are Christians by our love. Thanks, buddy. Probably because that's what Jesus said in John 17. That's what Jesus said. They'll know by our unity and our love. I am now convinced. Oh, did I already read that one? Or did you redo that one? Thank you, Victor, for the second donation. Very kind, very kind. On the Megyn Kelly interview, she said she had her phone face down on the table. I noticed that. I noticed that she had said that. And she just happened to pick it up at the exact moment he called. But I'll say this. My phone is almost always on silent. I very rarely have my ringer on. And I have my notification set so my screen doesn't come up. And that way it doesn't brighten up all night because I can't stand that. I like a nice dark room to sleep in. And so I have and I don't have to turn it off every night. So I just have it on a default setting that it just doesn't light up my screen. And it's but I've caught phone calls live. People will call me and I'll pick up the phone. That's because I just happen to be looking down and I happen to pick it up and check the time or something right when they're calling. Oh, hey, convenient. So I'm not ruling out that she just coincidentally picked up the phone at the exact right moment, but I did catch that, ma'am, sir. Das. Hydra, unknown people behind the curtain pulling strings. Oh, back to the earlier comment. Yeah, I don't know who the Hydras are. Pam, great show, Baron. Spelled your name correctly this time. You did. Somebody emailed me, or maybe it was a comment, to point out that B-A-R-O-N with one R was actually the lesser common spelling, the lesser known spelling of Baron. That B-A-R-R-O-N was like 5248 of all the Barons alive right now or something. To which I say, this is not truth by democracy, ma'am. This is truth, not truth by democracy. We don't vote on what's true. Baron is spelled with one R. Don't care what the majority of people if they spell it wrong. Zeb proved with pigs it couldn't be a 30-06. He believes a 9mm. Why can't our gov correct that obvious fact? How would they correct it? You would have to have the autopsy, and you would have to believe the autopsy was honest. And I'm not sure we'll ever get that. If indeed it was the C2 down to the C6, I know where the C6 is because I had a C6 injury, and I know I still feel it every day. So if it was C2 to C6, that's right here. Gunshot coming at a downward angle right here doesn't add up. Does not add up. So I don't know, like, you would need an honest autopsy, and I don't know that we have one. We certainly haven't seen one. I love you, Baron, because you care as much as I do about this story. Love you, brother. I do care about this story, Paul. I do. And I don't know why I care so much. I don't like seeing injustice and lies. That bothers me. Bothers me a great deal. I've always been an underdog. Like, a lot of the teams I root for have been underdogs. I mean, I'm an Indiana football fan, for crying out loud. They've lost more football games than any team in the history of football. I like underdog stories. I like the underdog candidate. Candace reported the French macaron giving conflicting details of dates and events as a psyop. Is it plausible Rob M and TPUSA could be doing the same? Yeah, it could be. Keep us confused. Keep us running down trails. Make me do a whole show on this. But lying is demonic. So if you're lying, sorry. I'm going to call you what you are. Kelly Wilkie. I've noticed Andrew Colvette is becoming a frequent Fox contributor on non-TPUSA subjects. Betty sees the future and is distancing himself from this mess. Keep in mind, Andrew Colvette's first instinct was that text messages from Charlie saying he was leaving the pro-Israeli cause were relevant to his death. That was his first instinct. That was his first instinct. You think he wants to be around for that? Thank you for your generous donation, Kelly. Adriana, I can't believe how casually you said that La Quinta is on the military vendor list. My mind is blown. Check it out. Check it out. I had an emailer pointed out to me and I looked at it. They even have a video advertisement for military people that talks about how easy it is if you use La Quinta as opposed to staying somewhere else. I'll play that video. We'll see how long I go. I may play that video at the end. If not, Adriana, maybe I'll play it next time. Hey, Baron, have you looked in the spy plane that John Cullen is apparently missing after reporting? Good to hear from you today. Thanks as always. Yeah, but I'd like to be here. I'm kidding. I have. Axel 10 plane? Sure, I have. I don't know what to make of it. John Cullen missing is terrifying. I've been following John Cullen since 2017. Protocol Widow, $5 per Frank Turk on Megyn Kelly's show, days after CK Mikey arrived at the hospital to join the group just minutes before the surgeon came out with the bad news. Bad news. Can you send me? I'll try to find that as well. We'd like to put this timeline together. I'll try. I'm stockpiling a lot of stuff to research, and I have a job and a life. I will try to find that as well because, or if someone could send me the timestamp to him saying that, because I know he was on for like a 45-minute interview, and I don't want to watch the whole thing because I don't particularly like watching Frank Turek. The things he said lately, the last few days in particular, are just blatantly wrong. And a good Christian man shouldn't be saying the things he's saying. Mikey arrived at the hospital to join the group just minutes before the surgeons came out with the bad news. If that's true, then Mikey was missing for a long time because the bad news came a couple hours later, I think, right? Hour and a half later, hour later. Thank you for the donation. Do Team Barron viewers who financially support TPUSA have standing to sue TPUSA to get discovery and mobile phone records, emails, etc.? No, you do not. You're not a shareholder. You can't do like a derivative lawsuit. That would not work here. Making a left. Prayers for Shara Beckstrom, 20 family, and Andrew Wolf fighting for his life. False flag. So sad. I think that is the name of the military member who passed away and the service member who still is fighting for his life, Andrew Wolf in Washington, D.C. That was a crazy story. That was a really crazy story. Yeah, prayers indeed. Thank you for your generous donation. Hey, if you're going to commit a crime, turn off Strava. Turn off Strava. Is that a running app or something? Did someone leave it on? Yeah, run, hike, ride. Did someone leave that on? News to me if they did. Lyman, Erika, Romania connection. I've heard it. I've not really looked into it, believe it or not. Was Lyman really in Romania with Erika? I don't know. Just common sensing it, $20. Dispatch call from officer at hospital said Erika's plane was supposed to land at Duncan and change to Signature at last minute. Car was being picked up from Duncan. Officer was confused about the sudden change. I don't know what to make of that. That is, again, news to me. I've always felt this was a fake assassination, just like the Trump attempt. I've heard that, and to be honest with you, I've gone down the rabbit trail, and I think it's real. I mean, I've looked very carefully at the Charles McClintock Wilson photos from before the event just to see if you can see any evidence of fake anything around the neck, and I just don't see it. And Charles McClintock Wilson has the highest quality photos that I've found of Charlie Kirk that day. Look up Peter Thiel. I know who Peter Thiel is. Oh, my dog's going crazy. I just don't trust JD Vance. Didn't he change his name 4 times? Yeah, did you not listen to my monologue? Sorry, I had to yell at my dog. Look up Peter Thiel. I don't trust JD Vance. Didn't he change his name 4 times? Yes. My monologue is phenomenal, by the way. Don't skip it. If you didn't hear it, when I'm done, go back and watch it. It's only about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. It was 5 pages. Can't take long. Charlie was in Salt Lake City to meet with Andrew Smith on the morning of the UVU event. Yes, he was. Now, the question is, why was Mikey McCoy in Salt Lake City after the Charlie Kirk UVU event? That's the question. I wanted to appreciate you calling a banana a Brigitte Macron. Hilarious. Well, there are big Brigittes and there are small Brigittes. But they're all Brigittes. Lyman has connections to air ambulances. I sent you an email. Then maybe it was an honest, like, that's how he got around that day. But that's weird, right? But that's totally weird. Like, I'm willing to accept it, but it's totally weird. I will check out your email, Seeker. Thank you. Remember, Rob started to say, I was watching, then cut that off when he was telling the story of Mike's call. Do I remember that? L-Bucks. I remember hearing that Rob's... I need to look into that. I need a whole timeline of like that first 3 hours. We need somebody or some bodies to put all of the information into a central location so we can begin to piece it all together. Put it all together. Andrea Jordan, $5. I'm from Ohio, and we don't claim JD. To be honest, I had a sick feeling when I saw him hearing the casket. Carrying the casket? You may not claim him, but you guys voted for him. Like, that's pretty claimy. As far as claimy goes, you know, electing someone to the most prestigious position in the state, that's pretty claimy. That's pretty claimy. Sorry, busy mom voice typing. Oh, you came right back fast, huh? That was fast. Thank you for your extra $2. Mr. Let Go Live today showed video of the French guy. I'll check it out. Mr. Let Go. I will look at it. Do you think Candace will bring down the entire system? No. I don't. That's a big, tall ask. Donald Trump didn't bring down the whole system. Ted Kaczynski didn't bring down the whole system. I mean, there have been people that have gone like crazy extremes to try to bring down the whole system. She didn't bring it. I think Candace will expose some corruption. And I'm in favor of that. Big favor. The truth is that Charlie's the only person that really could have given JD a run for his money. That was America First. Yeah, I don't think Charlie could have been president. I don't think Charlie could have been president. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Did anything ever come in those rental cars? I wonder if they ended up in Blanding. I don't know the answer to that. No, again, I think your question exposes something that happens a lot. And I've seen a couple of questions that kind of expose this tonight. When something is mentioned on air or during the show, we mention something, we cover something. That's not to say we're going to come back to it and cover it over and over and over again every night until we run it down. That's to say, hey, there were 5 rental cars allegedly. Here are their license plates. See if you can find them, because we're going to go on to cover other stuff. It's to raise the tips to the public awareness so that the public can begin to run it down. Some people have found images where it looks like these cars are in the background of certain places, particularly the one Ryan Matta posted where it looked like a white Toyota RAV4 pulled up behind the gray Dodge Challenger or Charger, whatever it was, that was being driven by the alleged shooter. Now, if that's true, Candace giving us the information about the rental cars is massive to the investigation. But now we need to continue, we need people to continue looking through their phones, looking through their business cameras. I mean, it's, this stuff takes time. This stuff takes time. So just because something hadn't been covered in a couple of days or a week or so doesn't mean we've forgotten about it. It just means we're covering other things and we'll come back to it if new information comes to the surface. Googled color burgundy. I didn't know you had to Google burgundy. I'll tell you exactly. That's kind of burgundy. Right there, that book on the popes. That's kind of burgundy. Tim Pool dismissed your research as impossible. I saw Tim Pool's attempt to dismiss it. He had never heard of it. So if you come to me and say, hey, there's a tool online and it does this, and I say, I've never heard of it, but that doesn't sound right. That's not dismissing it. That's professing ignorance. I like Tim Pool. But that's ridiculous. That anyone would say he dismissed it as impossible. He didn't dismiss anything. He had never heard of it. Of the Google Trends analysis. Mikey covered ears with hands still implicates him. Could. Penny Mills, $10. Thank you. Very generous Canuck bucks. Andrew confirmed it's only after Candace posted it. Andrew confirmed it only after Candace posted it. That's correct. But he did confirm it because he was on the thread. Then he confirmed that it was turned over to the feds because he thought it might be relevant. So that's why I shortcutted that. But you're right. Candace produced it first. $4.99 regarding anxiety. Bible also says, judge not lest you be judged, and pull the log out of your own eye before pointing the splinter of someone else's too. I'm not saying you're a horrible person. I just confess that I struggle with anxiety and worry. But if I say I struggle with theft or murder, I don't, by the way, that doesn't mean I can't point out that it's a sin. That's not what judge not lest you be judged means. It does not mean that you're not allowed to comment on what is sin and what is not sin. It is a sin to murder people, ma'am. The Lord has identified it as such. You may not murder. Thou shalt not kill. It's a sin to kill. It's a sin to murder. That's not judging. That's pointing out the obvious. And it's a sin to worry and have anxiety. Have faith in God. Know where you're headed. Let nothing else be of concern. The birds of the air and the weasels running around the ground or whatever he said, they all have a home. God's going to take care of you too. You have an eternal home. You got an advantage over every animal. Your dog has a home, but you have an eternal home. Your dog will rot in the ground. You're going to heaven. No, there's no need to worry. You'll be there for trillions of years. You're worried about 80 to 90 years on this earth? Come on. Come on. Stop it. I went down a rabbit hole last night starting at John Cullen's post. It's wild, but be on the lookout for an email from me. Got to have an open mind. It's all crazy. John Cullen has sent me down many rabbit holes, man. That will not be a surprise. Phil Lyman was with Erika in Romania, pre-Charlie. Nothing is coincidence. This is a fact. I would like to see evidence of that. All I've seen is one picture that kind of looks like Phil Lyman. There may be more. There may be more. I just haven't seen it. So anyone wants to email it to me, I'll be happy to look at it. 22 pounds. Thank you. L Bucks. Happy Thanksgiving from Wales. From Wales? You guys have the dopest flag. Wales has the coolest flag. I think it's Wales. You're the one with the dragon on your flag? Wales flag. Are you the ones? Yeah! That flag is dope. I wish we had a flag that dope. Stars and stripes are fine. They're fine. We get an emotional reaction when we see them. But let's not pretend they're a dragon. Let's not get carried away. The dragon is dope. Thank you, brother. Your mic is always good here. God wins. We're over enemy lines. In God we trust. Agreed, agreed, amen, and agreed. DC shooting, Google. A new one? Look at my emails, Wes Robking. I'll check it out, Wes Robking. DC shooting, Google Trends. DC shooting, Google Trends. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I noticed that. I did a Google Trends search, and the shooter's name was searched in DC the mid-morning before the shooting. And I did it with quotes. Everybody else is doing it without quotes because they don't know how the tool works. I did it with quotes, eliminating the possibility that it was just two names of disjointed places in the search and making sure it's those names exactly back to back. And that's weird to me. That's really weird to me. I don't know what it means. I'm not suggesting that means that somebody indeed. I'm just saying it's weird. And it's worth noting. Worth noting. Ken McNeil, love your show. You mentioned VP changed his name. Do you have more on this? Did you cover it or did someone else that I can go back and watch? I did mention it several times. Go back and watch the monologue. And you can Google it. It's very public information. He's public about it. Once was because he was adopted, I think, or maybe his mom remarried. Once was because that remarried or adopted person kind of left his life, and then he goes to another name, and then finally changes it because of his grandma. Changed it to his grandma's name. And then stylistically, he dropped the periods from JD. It used to be J period, D period, Vance, and now it's JD Vance. No periods. So yeah, you can. There's plenty of places, Kim. You can go look at that. We should start a wiki page timeline of events. That would be ideal. The problem is it will get spammed and ruined. The same advice I was given on the research group, that it'll just be ruined. People will get in and they'll figure out what you're working on and they'll go shut it down. Jennifer Smith, hey Baron, great job covering the story. Don't back down. P.S. You can't claim elections are rigged and stolen and then tell people they voted someone in. That's a good question. You made a great point, Jennifer. Guilty is charged. Guilty is charged. I'm not worried about it, though. They're trying to do some kind of reverse psychology with JD's statement because people are not for all the BS that's happening on the right with it all. That would be deep thinking. That's 3D chess, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of 3D chess. I don't think that stuff works. Amanda Van Allen radiation belt. I didn't get the notification you were going live for some reason, even though I have notifications on. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I heard several people say they didn't get the notification. I sent it out early. I like to open the chat up way early because you guys have fun in there before I show up, and I'll check in every now and then and answer any questions. So that first chat went out. I mean, the first notification went out like 11 or 10 or something. And then I went to the gym. I went and had lunch, or I had lunch here, but came back, finished up the monologue, and it was mostly written, but I finished it up and then it went live. So I wasn't paying attention to see if the notifications went out, like some days I do. Candace has done podcasts of shady people in the past, mostly that have all changed their names. Not to be trusted. Oh, the comedian's Tim Dillon. That's it. Yeah, Tim Dillon's hilarious. He is funny. There aren't too many people that crack me up. Theo Vaughn is one. Tim Dillon's another. Dave Smith, frankly, his stand-up's funny, but his political commentary is brilliant. I mean, it's just brilliant. Tim Dillon, that's his name. Thank you, Adriana. You just scratched an itch of mine that I had. Thank you. That log comment was someone else. I don't worry. Anxiety is a different thing. Biological fight or flight for no reason. Neurotransmitter problem. I don't want to get into this right now. Is it possible that the body can malfunction? Of course. Hearts can malfunction. Lungs can malfunction. Surely brains could malfunction as well. Is there any study to back up that brains malfunction in mass at the rate we prescribe neurotransmitter modification drugs? No, there's no study to back that up. The vast majority of people don't have a neurotransmitter problem. The vast majority of people have an anxiety and worry problem. And I believe, help me in my unbelief. I believe, help me in my unbelief. There's that for most people, for a lot of people, that will get them a lot of mileage. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying stop taking your medication. I'm not saying stop going to your doctor. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm saying the Lord told us not to worry. And when the Lord tells you things, he gives you the capability of doing it. The Lord told you not to kill. He gives you the capacity not to. We get frustrated in traffic. We don't take people's lives. You have the Gadsden flag. Where? I do not have the Gadsden flag. I have a gigantic pirate flag. It's just out of your ability to see, though. I don't have the Gadsden flag that I'm aware of. No, I don't think I do, brother. Don't know where that came from. Paramount Tactical stated there can be a 30-06 ammo that breaks apart on impact after penetrating 1 or 2 inches. If it was damaged, that changes ballistics. I've heard that argument, and I've heard that you could use a very light grain hand-packed with a certain load that... I've heard all that. I'm just suggesting if a round arrives on this side of the neck at a 9-degree angle, which is what the Losi Center would have provided, it is not going to enter the soft tissue and take a 30-degree turn and hit the vertebrae. It is going to go through the back of the neck, or it's going to stop. This is soft tissue. This is not bone. This is not cartilage. This is not ligament. This is nothing. You can almost pinch from front to back. It is just soft tissue. No round is going to arrive at multiple thousand feet per second and take an immediate left turn and hit the vertebrae. Nor is it going to go up and down at the same time. It's just, that's not the way rounds work, ma'am. Or sir. Or ma'am. That is ma'am. So I don't believe that. If they can show me an instance of that happening, I'll change my mind. I'm open. And I think Paramount Tactical, by and large, produces quality content. I have no idea what his problem is with me. I think one time I said it was suspicious that he showed up to UVU and happened to run into the guy that was asking Charlie Kirk a question before Hunter Kozak, and apparently that was really offensive because at that moment he didn't like me anymore, and I don't care whether he likes me or not, but I'm just saying I don't have an issue with him. I think he's produced a lot of great quality content. I think he's wrong on that, as far as I can tell. I don't think the physics support that story, but I'm open to having my mind changed. That's the difference between me and a lot of people. I'm open to having my mind changed. You are missed what I'm trying to tell you. The shirts the men were wearing have a meaning. Burgundy, and that is what they're... Listen, don't be nebulous. If there's a meaning, tell me the damn meaning. If you think there's a meaning, tell me the meaning. The burgundy shirts mean blank. I hate to get on to you, but I don't play games. If you... The chat, you're paying money to tell me something. Make sure I understand it. The burgundy shirts mean they're lizard people. The burgundy shirts mean blank. What is it? Tell me. I appreciate your donation. Very generous. Appreciate your stewardship of God's resources and directing some of them my way. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your desire to tell me something. But tell me. I emailed you the French guy video. Thank you. I'll check it out. Maroon was the color of the ROTC on UVU doing the blurred filming. Watch George Webb. He's excellent. Watch George Webb. He's excellent. Wow, so excellent. You said it twice. I'll check it out. Again, I don't mean to get on you, Diana, or whatever your name was, but that's what I'm talking. Like, this guy told me what he thought the burgundy meant. Like, that, you could have done that. Guys, this has been fun. It's we're just short of 3 hours, and it's Friday night, so let's all go have fun. Don't forget to tune into Ian Carroll's show tonight. Free Speech Friday is going to be lit. I don't know if he's going to be on Twitch or if he's going to be on YouTube, but either way, he's going to be talking some airplanes, and I intend to watch it. I got to get something to eat first, though. In the meantime, have fun. I appreciate you guys joining us. If you have not liked, if you have not subscribed, the majority of people that watch this program are not subscribers. I don't know how, but it's like 65% are not subscribers. Subscribe. Like the program, share the program with your friends and family, and click the notifications window. I'm going to have the Indiana-Purdue game on mute to watch Indiana go for its first ever undefeated season while I'm watching Ian Carroll tickle my ears and tell me amazing things. I appreciate it. One more super chat because they came in right before I signed off. What happens when we find out Charlie Kirk was actually murdered by CIA Mossad? What would happen tomorrow if we found out the worst? Nothing. Unfortunately, there may be a lot of truth to that last point, and that is really sad to me. Guys, I've enjoyed it. I'll be back Sunday night, probably 7 o'clock, but click your notifications, and I'll let you know. Bye, guys.